St. Louis, gateway to the West, where all summer long the eyes and imagination of the sporting world have been focused on Mark McGwire's magical home run ride. Today, instead of rounding the bases, they're gearing up to circle the speedway in the Carquest Auto Parts 250. It's been 1 year since Elliott Sadler celebrated here in Victory Lane. Now he returns to defend his title. Standing in his way, two-time Grand National champion Randy LaJoie. Matt Kenseth trying to win his first championship, and they're all chasing points leader in legacy, Dale Earnhardt Jr. Today, the road to victory races through the gateway to the West.
In celebration of NASCAR's 50th anniversary, CBS Sports presents the Carquest Auto Parts 250.
From the east side of the river in Madison, Illinois, we face the Gateway Arch in St. Louis. Welcome to the Carquest Auto Parts 250. Hello, everybody. I'm Mike Joy with two-time NASCAR champion Ned Jarrett. Ned, this race today is no McGwire, Sammy Sosa one-on-one. There's, what, 20 cars here that could win?
At least. Already 16 different drivers have won in this series in 1998, and certainly there are a lot of drivers who are capable who are not among that top 16. A lot of new young guns. A year ago that maybe wouldn't even make the field are up there winning races now.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. is 24. There's 10 drivers in the race younger than him, and 23 different pole sitters, including Shane Hall, who's won his first of the year, second of his career. Dave Blaney, the Charlotte pole sitter, in row 1. Row 2, veteran Jeff Purvis with Glenn Allen equaling his best start. Joe Bessie, last year's pole sitter here, and top rookie Andy Santerre. New Hampshire winner Buckshot Jones is 7th with Ed Barrier, who won at Hickory. And in the 5th row, just out of high school, Casey Atwood and number 2 point man Matt Kenseth.
And in row 6, we have Adam Petty making his first ever NASCAR Busch race, and along with Randy LaJoie, who's a two-time champion. Then there's the points leader, Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Joe Buford in row 7. Row 8, made up of former champion David Green and Mike McLaughlin. Row 9, we have Todd Bodine and Kerry Earnhardt, who's the older brother of Dale Jr. And in row 10, we have Kevin Grubb and Blaze Alexander.
Hermie Sadler and Indy star Tony Stewart in the 11th row. Then it's Mark Green and Elton Sawyer in a Ford. Curtis Markham and Bobby Hillen, whose car is owned by 4 St. Louis Cardinal players. Mike Dillon and Tim Fedewa, a two-time winner this year. Jason Keller, runner-up here last year, and Phil Parson.
Row 16 is made up of Lyndon Amick, another of the young guns, and Mark Probe. Row 17, Wayne Grubb and Nathan Butke. Row 18, Perry Tripp and Jimmy Johnson. Row 19 is Elliott Sadler, last year's winner, had to take a provisional this year, and Jeff Probe. And in row 20, Ashton Lewis Jr. and Johnny Chapman.
Patty Moise in row 21, her husband Elton Sawyer also in the race today. And Scott Hansen, the ASA champ, makes his Busch Series debut, as does Eric Jones, the road racer. 5 cars failed to qualify, including Busch North regulars Eric Bodine and Joey McCarthy, Tracy Leslie, Joe Gibbs' son J.D., and Mel Whalen did not make the field. Ralph Shaheen.
Here at Gateway, started 18th, finished 14th. He comes in here today with the points lead, a 97-point advantage. He told me just before the race was getting ready to roll off that he was going to take it cautious in the early stages due to the rain in the last 24 hours. He will, however, build his aggression over each lap till he finds the right edge to go racing. To Bill Stevens.
Yep, the rain will definitely be a factor today, because yesterday after the last practice, the teams dialed in their race day setups. Then last night it rained, washed away a lot of rubber on the racetrack. That could change their setups as we go into the race today. Secondly, the wind. 20 to 25 mile-an-hour gusts coming right down the main straightaway into these drivers' windshields, which means the line that they want may not be the one that they can hold on to. Let's go back to Mike.
Thanks, Bill. We're going to ride with Matt Kenseth, the Lycos.com Chevrolet, Robbie Reiser's car, starting 10th.
And also we'll be with Mike McLaughlin in the Gould's Pump Chevrolet number 34.
Defending race winner Elliott Sadler, the Phillips 66 Chevrolet, carries an onboard camera.
And also the other Sadler, Hermie Sadler, in the Peebles DeWalt Chevrolet.
And finally, Busch rookie, but ASA veteran Scott Hansen in the Gray Bar Bus Fuses Chevy. That car run by Kenny Wallace and Kenny Schrader entered out of Jimmy Spencer's shop. Well, it started out this morning spitting rain and in the high 50s. It's up to 70 degrees now. The humidity is lower. 25 plus mile per hour wind gusts, and there may be rain later today. Kim Brooks is on the flag stand. Carquest Auto Parts, the race sponsor, has a huge commitment to Special Olympics, and she will be competing in the Special Olympics Summer Games next year and is our honorary starter today, a gymnast.
And the track analysis. This is a 1.25 mile oval. The banking is 11 degrees in the turns and 9 degrees on the straightaway. Somewhat of an egg-shaped oval. Turns 1 and 2 are much sharper than 3 and 4.
Coming out of turn 4, getting ready for the start. Two spotters up there alongside our camera. That's Blaney on the outside, and then Black Pontiac and Shane Hall on the pole.
Blaney was on the pole a few weeks ago in Charlotte, North Carolina, as they get the green flag and hit into turn 1.
Very green racetrack after last night's rain, and rain interrupted qualifying midway through, and that changed the starting order quite a bit.
Because the track cooled off after the rain, and those that qualified after that qualified on a much better track as they still battle for the lead coming off of turn 4, and it looks like Blaney might have it.
They're single file from there on back through the first 10, and Dave Blaney. First time he's ever led a NASCAR Busch Series race. He drives for Bill Davis, who also owns Ward Burton's Winston Cup team. Takes the lead out into turn 1 ahead of Shane Hall. In today's race, 35 Chevrolets, 7 Fords, and 6 Pontiacs. The manufacturer's point breakdown there.
Like I mentioned that Dave Blaney had won the pole at Charlotte a few weeks ago, but he never led a lap there. He did exactly what he did to Shane Hall. Someone else beat him to the line, and he never was able to lead a lap.
Dave Blaney at Charlotte 2 weeks ago became the 22nd different pole sitter this year. That set a record. Stood since 1995. Shane Hall today, 23rd different pole sitter. There's Earnhardt Jr. in number 3. He and his brother going at it. That's Kerry Earnhardt in the 40, and here comes McLaughlin's 34. That battle for 14th position.
McLaughlin still on the inside of Kerry Earnhardt.
And back up front, Blaney leads Shane Hall. Jeff Purvis is 3rd. How about Andy Santerre in that yellow car, 4th in line? The Busch North graduate from Maine having a just stellar rookie year here.
And Santerre might have been one of those drivers that had a disadvantage in the qualifying. He had qualified early before the rains came here on Friday, but the track cooled off after that, and he was the man that was on the pole until about 5 others beat him. But he's already made his way up to 4th now after starting in 6th.
His engine builder, Dave McMaster, who built about 180 different race engines this season, makes the trip from Maine each weekend to come down and help Andy out. In fact, a lot of the folks on that crew he brought with him from the Busch North Series. 3 laps, Dave Blaney has led them all. Former World of Outlaws sprint car race, slips up just a little, and Shane Hall's right there on his bumper.
Boy, he started to stick his nose under there, but said, I can't quite do it here. You see how wide they come off of turn 2? That's a pretty sharp turn off there, and they want to get as close to the wall as possible. Going into turn 3 now, this is a much wider turn. They can go in there at a faster rate of speed, and it's a good thing because the wind, that wind you were talking about, is blowing from turn 2 down into turn 3.
I asked Santerre yesterday, a first-timer here, I said, what does this racetrack remind you of? He said, well, turns 1 and 2 are kind of like Stafford. That egg shape, same kind of, you have to diamond the track entry. Stafford, Connecticut. Turns 3 and 4 look a lot like New Hampshire to him, but he found a quick way around here. For the lead, Shane Hall, and he gets into Blaney coming off turn 2 just a bit.
Yes, he did. He saw the weakness on the lap before that Blaney was getting a little bit high there, pushing up a little bit, and so he said, maybe I'll try him the next time, and sure enough, he has the lead now, and here comes Purvis in the 4 car.
Yeah, the Vultures smelled fresh meat, and it was Blaney. Jeff Purvis in the 4 and Andy Santerre in the 47 move underneath Blaney's Pontiac and up into 2nd and 3rd. 5 laps complete here at St. Louis. Shane Hall, the pole sitter, is back to the lead. Jeff Purvis is 2nd. Santerre is 3rd. Dave Blaney trying to hold off Glenn Allen Jr. there for the 4th spot. And way up the inside comes Buckshot Jones in the 00. He battles with Glenn Allen for 5th. 6 laps complete under green here at Gateway in St. Louis.
In celebration of NASCAR's 50th anniversary, CBS Sports coverage of the Carquest Auto Parts 250 is sponsored by the 3,400 Carquest Auto Parts stores across North America. You'll find it at Carquest. Ford, the official truck of NASCAR, is built Ford tough. And by Budweiser, official beer of NASCAR. Hey, race fans, this Bud's for you.
Go right.
On behalf of more than 3,300 Carquest Auto Parts stores in the U.S. and Canada, we'd like to welcome you to the inaugural Carquest Auto Parts 250. We're glad you can join Carquest and our 20,000 associates in this spectacular event. Enjoy the race.
We're under caution for the first time today. Kerry Earnhardt with a right front tire down there on his number 40. Found the wall in turn number 2. Watch from the right side of your screen as he'll come into view here onto the billboards.
There he might have had contact with another car coming in there, Mike, and gets up into the wall. Now, whether the tire was flat before he hit the wall or after he hit the wall, but it certainly was flat when he came into the pits.
For more on Earnhardt, Bill Stevens is in his pit.
Kerry Earnhardt told his crew that the number 20 car, Blaze Alexander, got into him, caused some contact to get into the wall. Right now, as you can see, they're checking out the suspension. They don't think there's serious structural damage there, some cosmetic damage, obviously, to the bodywork, but they're taking the tire off right now, and it's terribly flat spotted. I mean, it looks like it's an octagon right now. They'll get the fresh rubber on there. They think they can get him back out there, but how well that car will handle will obviously remain to be seen.
So a tough break for the oldest of Dale Earnhardt's 3 kids who have been involved in racing. Kerry, Kelly, and Dale Jr. CBSSportsline.com gives you complete auto racing coverage, news and standings from the track, and chat with other NASCAR fans in the interactive forums at cbs.sportsline.com. There is Blaze Alexander's car, and Ned, he's certainly contacted something.
He certainly has. He has a lot of damage to the front, and aerodynamics certainly plays a role here at this racetrack because they get up to probably 150 to 155 miles an hour on these straightaways.
Alexander continues without making a pit stop under this caution. And the Doug Taylor Chevrolet for Kerry Earnhardt is getting pushed back to the garage.
He's scheduled to drive this car, the full schedule, in 1999. Kerry Earnhardt. So a break for him coming into racing. Too bad here today, a bad break.
Let's get an update on the outside pole sitter, Dave Blaney. Here's Ralph.
Mike, he was a little tight in the center of the corner. He purposely set the car up that way before the start of the race today, figuring that as the race progresses, that car is going to loosen up a little bit, and then he'll be in great shape as this race moves on.
Alexander now makes a pit stop with 1 lap to go under caution to clean up some of that nose damage. Ashton Lewis Jr., the road racer, has also made a stop here under this last lap of caution. First yellow of the day. Alexander connecting with Kerry Earnhardt, and Earnhardt brushing the wall in turn 2 has brought out this caution.
Yeah, they might have waited a little bit late to make that pit stop. He was in middle of the pack, about 22nd position. I'm sure he didn't want to give up the track position, but after they surveyed the damage from just looking at it come down as the green flag comes out, he's going out of the pits, and he's in danger of going a lap down. There you see him coming out of the pits, and the field goes by, so he will go a lap down. If he had come in a lap earlier, he might have been able to stay on the lead lap.
Jeff Purvis is your leader, driving for James Finch. And Ned, that'll be a 2-car team next year.
It will be, with Randy LaJoie coming on board.
And here's Santerre looking at Shane Hall's 2nd position. Santerre in 47, Blaney in the 93, Glenn Allen in the 99 are your top 5. And Buckshot Jones.
Just before the caution, and when we were in break, is when Jeff Purvis took the lead, coming off turn 4 and going into turn 1.
First time that he's led all year. Here comes Earnhardt. Moving up, and Joe Buford in the 50, the new Nashville Speedway champion, challenging Earnhardt. Let's get an update from the 20-car pit. Here's Bill.
Yeah, Blaze Alexander made out a little bit better than Kerry Earnhardt in that exchange. They just had a little bent sheet metal under the radiator. They were able to straighten it out and get him back out there again. Kerry Earnhardt is back in the garage, broken right front brake rotor. It'll take him a little time before he can hit the racetrack again.
And yellow fever again, Bill. That's Perry Tripp we're looking at. The open wheel ace. He lost a little bit of, well, looks like could be the front valence.
Yes, that's what it appears to be.
Out of Fredericktown, Missouri. Interesting, Ned, the 2 oldest drivers in this field are Scott Hansen at 43 and Perry Tripp at 42. They're the 2 oldest guys in the race. They're both rookies.
That is interesting, isn't it? Of course, they have not run in this series, so they are considered rookies. That's a car that's owned by Ed Whitaker out of Bristol, Tennessee. For you fans who have followed this series over the years, Harry Gant had a lot of success in this car.
Yeah, you look at the way that number 7 is shaped, and it's pretty evident the lineage of that car. We'll be right back. Just can't get this race going, can we?
No. I thought at first we got singled out, and I thought we was going to be in good shape there for a while. It's down the inside. Yeah, okay.
Hey, Mike.
Yeah, hey, Ralph.
Just so you know, that was one of the key points in the drivers' meeting, to keep this thing green for 101 laps and go racing after that, as I'm sure you probably figured out already.
Yeah, how about if I lead to the idea of the weather and have you update that?
That'd be fine.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess it was rear bumper cover instead of a front valence.
Okay.
But
Yeah, must have been.
Yeah.
I'm not sure which car. Okay.
He pulled away there on that last restart over Shane Hall. Also with a good run. I think maybe ready for a spectacular caution at the time of the afternoon here at the Gateway International Raceway in Madison, Illinois. The Carquest Auto Parts 250 on tap here today with Jeff Purvis, Shane Hall, Andy Santerre, Dave Blaney, and Glenn Allen showing the early spring. From the Gateway International Raceway, this is MRN Radio.
Kathy, you're going to start it from that dead stop right where he was going into turn 1, right?
Welcome back. We're just ending up the second caution here at Gateway International Raceway outside St. Louis. There is the reason, Perry Tripp. Let's have a look at what happened going into turn one, Ned.
Right here he is in heavy traffic going into the turn. Now watch him. And he must have got his left wheels down on the flat part of the racetrack and just broke loose with him.
Let's show you what Elliott Sadler saw coming into that scene.
And he sees the car get sideways right in front of him. He sees it go up the track. He had slowed down a little bit, and we speculated that might be his front valence. Actually, it's from the rear of the car that came off Perry Tripp's car. That
won't affect his aerodynamics nearly so badly. Scott Hansen has been on pit road. Patty Moise has made 2 pit stops, and Todd Bodine has been in under this caution. Later today, NASDAQ College football caps a big day on CBS Sports. You'll see either Auburn versus Florida or Syracuse at Boston College. Blaze Alexander on the inside as we get set for the restart with Jeff Purvis leading Shane Hall, Andy Santerre, Dave Blaney, and Glenn Allen.
Alexander not able to get up to speed so he could have a chance at getting his lap back. And Perry Tripp did not lose a lap. He made several pit stops during the caution.
3 wide midway down the backstretch, and the battle from second on back. Santerre diving underneath Shane Hall, and there's Matt Kenseth in 17 moving up on the inside. There's the battle for second. The yellow car is Andy Santerre.
Shane Hall's car strong down the straightaway, but Santerre drives a little bit deeper into the corner. Ooh, and he gets a little bit loose, and I think that's what happened to Perry Tripp. He got his left wheels down on that cement, it looks like, down going into turn one, and that'll break a car loose.
Now Santerre has to deal with Dave Blaney fighting back to the front on the outside. Alexander back in the pits as the battle rages on for second place. I'll make that for third place.
Yeah, third now. Santerre just simply could not make that pass. He was going for second, and now he is back to fourth. He'll have to regroup and try him again.
His 47 right in front of Glenn Allen in the double, and Buckshot Jones in the 00. Let's go to the pits of the series leading rookie. Here's Ralph.
Mike, Andy Santerre actually helped build this car, and as Ned knows, Ned, anytime a driver can actually get in there and help bend the metal himself, he really has that much more knowledge of the chassis and its design. It's that much easier for him to relate back to his crew chief exactly what that car is doing. It just helps that much more in chassis setup. One reason why he's running so well here today.
No question about it. It gives you a lot more confidence in the car, and of course he had a lot of confidence going into this race too, because everybody thought he would win the pole. But as we said earlier, the rains perhaps kept him from doing that. Not taking anything away from Dave Blaney and the guys who beat him, but Santerre was fast in every practice session and was on top before the rains came.
Here's Tony Stewart in the 44, Ned, and he's climbing up the back of 22, 18-year-old Adam Petty. How many Petties have you brought into this sport?
A lot of them. Of course, he's a 4th generation driver. He started with Lee, and then Richard, then Kyle, and of course Adam is Kyle's son.
36 David Green moving up around the outside of 43 Kevin Grubb. And they trade a little sheet metal right there, and around goes Fedowa.
2-time winner this year on the series is Tim Fedowa in the car number 33. You can see the damage to the back end of his Chevrolet. He keeps going, and no caution yet.
I think he was a victim, Ned, when those two cars banged sheet metal. He might have checked up, and somebody got into the back of him, and that somebody may have been Jason Keller, whose car is limping down the backstretch toward the garage. We're going to stay under green. NASCAR is really hesitant to put out that caution flag with a big rainstorm centered southwest of St. Louis. They want to try to get this race in its entirety before the rains come.
As you saw the leader going to turn 3, that red car that was headed towards the pits was Jason Keller. Let's take a look back and see if we can figure what happened as they were coming off turn 2. It was the back of the pack, and a couple of cars get together from the outside, and the yellow car almost hits the wall, and Fedowa was right in the middle of that, and I think he got tapped.
The yellow car was David Green. Fedowa got slammed from the back by Curtis Markham.
And the 64 car.
Yeah, that's
Markham. He has a lot of damage to his car. So
Yep. Well, that's what sent Tim Fito around. Back up front, Jeff Purvis has now opened up a lead of about 10 car lengths. Shane Hall has some breathing room on Dave Blaney, but Blaney has a mirror full of Andy Santerre. Here we'll show you the interval. There it is from Purvis back to Hall. And it's not that far from Hall back to Blaney. Santerre and Buckshot Jones has passed Glenn Allen. That changes 5th place.
Buckshot started in the 7th position, so he's gained a couple of positions since the start.
And so is Matt Kenseth in the 17, who started in 10th. Kenseth has now climbed to 7th. CBS Sports coverage of the 1998 Carquest Auto Parts 250 will continue after this message and a word from your local station. That Tony Stewart, Adam Petty battle is still a good one. They're side by side into one. And Tony got him. '64 to the garage. Oh, I'm sorry, that's Pitts. Okay. Ooh, Kenseth. Kathy, this will get good with 17 and 3. They'll be nose to tail when we come back, both trying to move up. .29 laps complete here in St. Louis of 200. Jeff Purvis leading from Shane Hall and Dave Blaney, but the story is back at 6th spot, where Glenn Allen has just been passed by Matt Kenseth, and hot on Kenseth's trail is Dale Earnhardt Jr.
The points leaders, Dale Earnhardt Jr. is the points leader. Matt Kenseth in the black number 17 is second in points as we look out the windshield of Kenseth's car. He's trying to make his way up towards the front, so both of those drivers being careful and cautious to a degree, Mike, but they're pretty aggressive too in trying to come to the front.
Kenseth right behind Buckshot Jones, the 5th place car. Now Earnhardt was the first car to qualify after the rain stopped yesterday afternoon, which certainly was no advantage until some fresh rubber got put down on the speedway, so he's had to climb the ladder from 13th starting spot today. Kenseth started the race in 10th position.
So Kenseth is up to 6th and Earnhardt to 7th.
For more on the point leaders, here's Ralph.
Well, to start off with, we spoke with crew chief Tony Eury for Dale Earnhardt Jr. He says their car is just fine. They're cruising right along right now. Same thing from Robbie Reiser, crew chief of Matt Kenseth. Mike, both drivers said they would casually start pushing a little bit harder with each lap till they find the edge of the racetrack and the adhesion with their tires.
But Ned Jarrett is a fellow who's raced for a few championships. You know, they don't have to, one thing they don't have to do is race each other at this stage.
No. No, they need to race the racetrack right now. Of course, they're racing other cars out there too, but they don't need to get in the shoving match, that's for sure. And they won't. They're young and aggressive, but still they're smart. They've learned a lot in this 1 year. When I said at the top of the show, some drivers have struggled to make the field. There's a couple of guys that, you know, they were among them a year ago, and here they are, the points leaders now and the biggest winners so far on the circuit. Earnhardt has 6 wins. Kenseth has 3, and just they're having a great year.
Kenseth is 26 years old. Earnhardt Jr. is 24. Yesterday, in an interview with Adam Petty, Adam called Earnhardt old at 24. I guess when you're 18, everybody else is old.
I guess.
Matt Kenseth, Lycos.com Chevy of Robbie Reiser. Don't think he's hooked up to the internet just right this second. And he has a look under Buckshot Jones, headed for turn 3.
Buckshot shot up there the first few laps, but he's sort of stabilized now, and his car might be going away a little bit. And we're to the point now, we're 33 laps into this race, coming down for the 34th lap. And if the car is not handling just right, it begins to show. The tires will begin to heat up, and they begin to slide around a little bit.
Here comes Earnhardt down to the inside, and he easily takes the 6th place away from Matt Kenseth.
Kenseth didn't fight it. Once he got that runner. Yep, that's what he did. Let him go, and maybe he needs an adjustment on it. So I'll just ride along here until we'll make that first pit stop and get an adjustment. Then we'll race with him near the end.
They're running 6th and 7th in this race, 1-2 in the championship. Earnhardt with a 97-point lead on Matt Kenseth. Mike McLaughlin, 253 points out of first, still somewhat in contention for this championship. Now just ahead of them is Buckshot Jones in the 00. Ralph is in his pit.
Mike, Ricky Pearson, of course, the crew chief for Buckshot Jones, says that Buckshot is a little tight coming off the corner in that 00. So they're just riding it out right now, hoping the car will come around as the track does.
Andy Santerre in 47. 93 is Dave Blaney out in front of them. Second place Shane Hall in 85. Jeff Purvis in the 4 is your leader. Has been since this last caution period. In the garage, Curtis Markham and Jason Keller has made another pit stop, this one under green.
And Jason is already 6 laps down.
There's Keller right behind race leader Jeff Purvis. Purvis out of Clarksville, Tennessee, in danger of becoming one of the old men of this series. He's 39.
Boy, he established himself as one of the greatest dirt track racers in stock cars of all time. He was a terror on the dirt tracks throughout the Southeast, and then he began racing in ARCA and other series that were running on asphalt, and has adapted well.
Somewhat of a protege of our friend Neil Bonnet. Purvis really adapted well to pavement and to the big tracks. Done a little road racing too. Ran in the 24 Hours of Daytona as well. Well, looking at the flags right outside our booth, they are straight out at almost 30 miles an hour. Bill Stevens, what effect is that having?
Well, Mike, we mentioned at the top of the telecast it could be a factor, and a couple of the crews are hearing from their drivers telling them that out of turn 4, the cars are pushing, and they can actually feel the wind fighting on the race cars. They're not going as quickly in that part of the racetrack as they would like to.
Well, that's where they would hit that headwind when they come off of turn 4, and it is a strong headwind, and that's exactly what it'll do, is make the car push coming off of that turn. And here's Adam Petty in the car number 22, that multicolored car, trying to pass the car number 50.
That's Joe Buford out of Nashville, Tennessee, the new champion of the Speedway up there. Good run for Buford here in qualifying. Put that car 14th in the field for Joe Washington and Julius Irving.
Petty just took over or is trying to take over the 15th position, I should say. Now I believe he has a run. He might get him this time. Yep, right fast.
Just slid it right over there.
Yeah.
4th generation NASCAR star. No other family and no other sport can make that claim. That's Adam Petty. We'll be right back. Joe, you better find the low lane. Ned, we can move this to somewhere where it's...
No, that's fine.
If there's a better spot for it.
No, I didn't.
Because I've got one here.
Thinking. Yeah.
I mean, I've got one here.
Yeah.
Okay. Ooh, that Adam Petty crowd, that's getting big up there. Yep. Well, bye, Adam. Kerry Earnhardt's back on the track. Yep. Okay. Ooh, Adam looked a little loose there. Okay. You'll like them. Got it. Immediately following our race, it's NASDAQ college football. In an SEC clash, Auburn takes on Florida. Or you'll see Heisman candidate Donovan McNabb and the Syracuse Orangemen take on the high-flying Boston College Eagles. That's coming up next, right here on CBS Sports. Jeff Purvis continues to lead Shane Hall and Dave Blaney. Matt Kenseth is up to fourth ahead of Andy Santerre and Dale Earnhardt Jr. Here's Ralph Shaheen.
Mike, this will be one of the keys when it comes to the first round of pit stops today. This is called the spring rubber. The key tire will be the right front. Now, if your car's a little tight, you'll pull one of these out. That will help your car turn through the corners. See how they put this little pull tab right here onto the spring rubber? If your car is loose, you want to stick one of these in the right front spring. That'll help tighten you up.
Thanks, Ralph. Well, Kenseth has moved up to fourth, Ned, and Earnhardt Jr. has climbed up into the sixth spot. So, for more on Earnhardt, here's Bill Stevens.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. just radioed the crew and said that the car is getting hot. The temperature up to about 230 degrees. He thinks that it's because he's running too close to cars in front of him. The temperature goes up. He's got to get into what he calls clean air. And Ned, maybe you can elaborate on that.
Well, of course, you want to keep it away from other cars so that you do get what they call clean air, and that is air that's not disturbed by the car in front of you, so that you can get a lot of air into the grill. I was trying to see as he came down the straightaway right there, it doesn't look like that he has too much tape on the grill. A lot of times they'll put a lot of tape on the grill of the race car to keep air from going in there, which affects the downforce on the car, but it doesn't look like he has too much there. So
no, you can either have cooling or superior aerodynamics, but it's hard to have both at the same time. So Earnhardt whistles right up there to Andy Santerre, and that's the battle for fifth place. Earnhardt has led 1,391 laps this year. That's far more than anybody else. Kenseth ranks second in laps led. There's Kenseth's number 17. He's led just over 400. They're pulling down on Patty Moise, the 14 car on the outside, who is about to go.
She has gone a lap down.
Yes.
She's in 38th position now.
Blaney makes it past, and she surrenders the low groove to Kenseth as well. A top road racer won a Busch race pole at Road Atlanta, Georgia, earlier in her career. Now you're watching from Kenseth, the fourth place car, ahead to Dave Blaney, another fellow who really had the talent in open wheel cars, in his case sprint cars.
Well, certainly these guys, we talked about Blaney and Shane Hall getting the advantage in qualifying yesterday, but they're holding up very well. They're staying right up there in the front. Hall is in second place, and Blaney is in third place.
Blaney slides up the racetrack. Here comes Kenseth underneath, makes the pass, move Matt Kenseth up to third, and let's go to Dave Blaney's pit. Here's Ralph.
Well, the St. Louis area, Mike, has been very good to Dave Blaney. He actually said he was a standout in the Pennzoil World of Outlaws. Dave had numerous victories. His first ever outlaw victory came just across the highway in Granite City, just on the other side of turns 1 and 2.
Blaney trying to make the climb to Winston Cup. Driving here in the Busch Series for Bill Davis, led his first laps in this series today. From the outside pole, Curtis Markham returns to the race. Kerry Earnhardt is also back in the race after trips to the garage area. 50 laps complete, 25% of the race distance. That is Jeff Purvis out for a Saturday drive around St. Louis. And Shane Hall, you can see, is just about 2 seconds back. Matt Kenseth in third, moving up on Hall. Then Blaney, Santerre, Earnhardt, Buckshot Jones, Glenn Allen, and Randy LaJoie, the series champion. Casey Atwood, 18 years old, 10th place.
Having a great day here. There's the second place car of Shane Hall. Here's the leader, of course, Purvis, in car number 4. And then comes
Shane Hall.
Oh,
excuse me, that's Jason Keller.
Yeah, he's he was laps down.
Right, after a trip to the garage and an extra trip to pit road.
And there's Shane Hall in the blue and red car, number 85. Not too far behind him is Kenseth now. He's gaining.
And here's Dave Blaney. Blaney's the 4th place car after starting on the front row. So Andy Santerre in 5th, Earnhardt in 6th. Casey Atwood rounds out the top 10 after winning the pole at Nashville. And with 52 laps complete, we'll be back to Gateway International Raceway. The Carquest Auto Parts 250 after this. Of course, it goes away.
Yep. Kenseth is definitely gaining on the leader.
Tomorrow, the NFL on CBS continues with regional action. Many of you will see Mark Brunell lead undefeated Jacksonville against the Bills. Also, Baltimore versus Pittsburgh, Cincinnati at Tennessee among the early games tomorrow here on CBS Sports. Indianapolis versus the 49ers later tomorrow. Jeff Purvis is your leader. Shane Hall has cut his advantage to 0.8 of a second, and Matt Kenseth is on the right side of your screen, closing fast.
Yes, he's closing on both of those, Mike. He is right now on the back bumper of Shane Hall as they head into turn 1. You can see him. He's in the black car. Shane Hall in the red and blue car as they go into turn 1.
And it looks like he's going to make the move here on Hall for second place. Ralph is in his pit.
Mike, they worked very, very hard yesterday on long run run setups for this car of Matt Kenseth. And as you can see, with 57, 58 laps in the book, that car is really starting to come around now for Matt. The longer the track stays green, the better that 17 should get. To Bill Stevens.
Shane Hall gang very happy, not only because they won the pole this weekend, their best qualifying position of the year by far, but crew chief Steve Addington is going to be a newlywed next month. He's marrying his fiancée Patty, and I asked him, where are you going on your honeymoon? He said, to the Busch race in Rockingham.
Where else? Of course.
What's that line? She knew the job was dangerous when she took it.
Right.
Matt Kenseth on the move.
Mike, about 20 laps ago, he was 4 seconds behind the number 4 car of Jeff Purvis, and he has cut that down to about 1 2/10 seconds, and part of that 1 2/10 seconds came when he made the pass on Shane Hall.
They move past Eric Jones out of Granger, Iowa, driving the Dale Fishline wrench machine. And Shane Hall tried another run at him right there, Ned, but you see it lost him, not gained him a bit of ground.
Yeah, Kenseth's car is handling better in the turns, and that is a key factor now that they've run as many laps as they have, as was reported from the pit. The longer he runs, the better he goes. And here's Buckshot making the pass. He's trying to come back on Santerre. Santerre in the car number 47, but they run up on the 20 car, Blaze Alexander. So Buckshot has to back off. He'll try to get another run.
Well, Santerre went high to go around the lap car. Buckshot covered the spot to the inside. Just looking for an opportunity. And there's Glenn Allen in the 99 coming into that picture as well.
Allen running in the 8th position.
Casey Atwood's up to 9th and Ed Barrier 10th. Randy LaJoie's 11th. Mike McLaughlin's climbed to 12th now.
And Joe Bessie is 13th and Tony Stewart 14th, and Todd Bodine is 15th. Todd Bodine made a pit stop during one of the cautions. He was all the way back at the back of the pack, and he now has charged back up to the 15th position.
For more on Todd, here's Bill.
Ned, earlier that pit stop that Todd Bodine made was to get a trash bag out of the radiator that blew in there and was making the car run hot. They also made a couple of chassis adjustments. Donnie Richardson, the crew chief, told me they wanted to start making the adjustments then so that when they come in for their regular pit stop, they can just do regular maintenance and not get bogged down with having to change the race car around.
10th place battle here. That's Randy LaJoie, the series champion on the inside, and Ed Barrier showing some steam in the outside groove, Ned.
Yes, he is. He's running pretty well, but LaJoie drives a little deeper into the turn now. Here comes Barrier back up on the outside. Barrier won at Hickory earlier this year for his only NASCAR Busch Series win, but that was an impressive one.
Veteran Winston Cup driver Jimmy Means, the crew chief for Barrier. Second generation star. His dad Max was a mainstay of the Southern Modified circuit.
And LaJoie finally makes the pass. Takes over the 10th position.
And he'll move up on Casey Atwood running in 9th. Up front, Jeff Purvis moves underneath Mike Dillon to put Dillon 1 lap down.
Dillon is in 34th position.
And now Dillon is battling Mark Crow in that number 80 on the left side of your screen.
They're battling for position, and of course they don't want to give up that lap if possible, but has no choice.
Well, Purvis is about to be battling for position himself. Here comes 17, Matt Kenseth. The second place car has caught Purvis while Purvis has tried to lap traffic. Around the outside of Kerry Earnhardt, and the fans come to their feet, and they smell a lead change. Here's Ralph.
Mike, I spoke to crew chief Johnny Allen for Jeff Purvis. Earlier, he said Jeff never says anything until the guys catch him. Well, now he's talking, and he's saying the car's a little bit tight, so he's going to have to keep his eyes on Matt Kenseth.
Will Kenseth take them 3 wide into the corner?
I don't think so. That wouldn't be smart. No, he didn't. He had a notion. They said, no, I don't think, not at this stage of the race. If they were battling for the lead in the last 5 laps, yes, maybe, but not with 136 laps to go.
Mark Martin has kind of taken Matt Kenseth under his wing. They talk, converse a lot. Mark has tried to help Matt with race strategy and running long distance races. And you know, Mark, he'll race the car when it's time to race. And I think you just saw a little of that right there with Matt Kenseth. Now he has a look underneath Jeff Purvis with a little bit of clear track ahead.
Certainly Mark Martin, one of the smartest drivers in NASCAR racing, and he's a good one to learn from.
65 of 200 laps complete. Matt Kenseth looking on the inside as they come off turn 4 and down the front straightaway. in front of some 50,000 fans here in St. Louis. Jeff Purvis ahead of Matt Kenseth, Shane Hall, Dave Blaney, and Dale Earnhardt Jr. We'll be right back to St. Louis after this. Yep.
Sports Race Summary is sponsored by Wrangler, the Western Original.
Fine. Okay. Good. Good, Steve. Yep. Good. Oh, they always lead change in commercial. Can we replay the lead change? Yes. Okay. Okay. Do I need to say Wrangler? Okay. Okay. Fine.
This CBS Sports Race Summary is sponsored by Wrangler, the Western Original.
After 70 laps, we've now had 4 lead changes among 4 different drivers. Average speed 114.5, slowed by 2 cautions for 6 laps. All 43 starters are still running. Welcome back to Gateway International, just east of St. Louis. Mike Joy with Ned Jarrett. Matt Kenseth is your new leader. He took the lead from Jeff Purvis just a couple laps ago. Let's show you how it happened.
Going into turn 3, he got a nose alongside him, and I'm sure that the 4 cars Purvis' spotter said, hey, he's moving inside. They lapped Hermie Sadler as they went into the turn. Kenseth dove right under him and took the lead.
It's the 10th race that Matt Kenseth has led this year. 1 road course race, and this is his 9th super speedway race to lead. Kind of surprising, Ned. He's not led on a short track.
That is surprising when most of his experience had been on short tracks prior to coming into NASCAR racing.
So Kenseth works his way around to complete 72 laps, and he is opening up a 1-second advantage on Jeff Purvis, who has 1 second and a half now on Shane Hall. Dave Blaney, Dale Earnhardt Jr., Buckshot Jones, Glenn Allen, and Andy Santerre. Casey Atwood and Randy LaJoie complete the top 10, and we should be getting pretty close to pit stops.
They should be able to run close to 100 laps, I think, on fuel as he puts a lap on Jeff Prode, who is running in the 29th position. They get a little better fuel mileage on these cars because of lower compression engines. They have 9.5 to 1 compression engines and a 390 CFM carburetor on these cars, so they don't burn as much fuel as a NASCAR Winston Cup car would, and the NASCAR Winston Cup cars normally go about 100 miles on a tank of fuel.
And recently this series made the change to unleaded racing fuel. It's much higher octane than you get at the pump.
Well, as we say that, here are cars coming down pit road right now. So I don't know if it's fuel or anyway they're making pit stops. I thought they could have gone much longer. But here's Buckshot Jones into the pits, and Andy Santerre and Hermie Sadler.
Joe Bessie is in as well, one of the top half dozen qualifiers. So pit stops under green begin here at lap 73. Ralph is in Buckshot's pit.
Mike, remember this 00 was very, very tight, so they're going to work on that right rear corner, making chassis adjustments to them. The same thing for Andy Santerre. Small chassis adjustment to the right, not as drastic on the right rear of the 47, which is just in front of Buckshot Jones. Now, pit road here at Gateway is nice and wide, so the crews have plenty of room to work. Both cars take 4 tires and fuel, and they're underway.
And we see the hood is up on Hermie Sadler's car. He had just been lapped before he came into the pits, so something wrong inside. That's a costly pit stop for Hermie Sadler.
Looking down in the area of the right cylinder bank, and you can see a bit of smoke out the tailpipe of Hermie Sadler's car as he fires it back up. Matt Kenseth is your leader. He is trying to close down a 97-point deficit to Dale Earnhardt Jr. in the Busch Series Championship. Now, Mike McLaughlin, who had climbed up to the top 10, is now backslid to 12th place. Bill is in Hermie Sadler's pit.
Mike, about 10 laps ago, Hermie Sadler reported the engine was missing, losing power. They just brought her into the pits. Their best guess is he may have lost a cylinder. Try to limp around and keep the car in the race, but he'll be way off the pace.
As our Peebles in-car camera riding with Hermie Sadler around the warm-up lane inside of turns 1 and 2. You see where they merge in with traffic along the backstretch.
Wayne Grubb is in the pits, and so is Kevin Grubb. Both the Grubb brothers in the pits at the same time. And these are scheduled pit stops. Earlier than I thought, but they know how to figure. They figured they'd have to make 2 pit stops at least during the race.
So the pit window just about opened if you figure the laps and divide them by 3 racing segments. But now, Ned, with Buckshot Jones in and on fresh tires, will that alter the strategy of Kenseth, Purvis, and Hall? Because that 00 car is going to be faster for a while than they are out there running on worn tires.
We will, and that's something they certainly will have to take into consideration. And I'm sure the crew chiefs and the spotters and everybody have the stopwatches on to check and see what the difference is on used tires and the new tires.
Casey Atwood is on pit road, the 18-year-old from Nashville, Tennessee.
Elton Sawyer is on pit road. And Dale Earnhardt Jr. now coming into the pits. These are all scheduled pit stops.
Well, he gives up 5th place to come in. He is the point standing leader. And a 3rd generation NASCAR superstar.
Ralph Earnhardt. Ralph Earnhardt is his grandfather, and then Dale, of course, his father. As he comes into the pits, and let's go to the pits and Bill.
Dale Jr.'s crew over the wall like a jailbreak. I just talked to Tony Uri. He says 4 tires, no chassis changes. Right side tires are on, left side's going on. There goes the fuel. Let's go to Ralph Shaheen.
Big problem with the left rear tire change for Casey Atwood. The other 3 tires went on fine, but something went wrong with that left rear, and it killed Casey Atwood on pit road.
This crew of Dale Earnhardt Jr. have performed like a NASCAR Winston Cup team all year long in the pits, and that's been a big advantage for him. He runs good on the racetrack, but also, and here comes the leader.
Yep,
Matt Kenseth coming into the pits in car number 17.
Adam Petty is in, Glenn Allen, and
Tony Stewart comes down pit road.
Glenn Allen's team taking on 4 tires.
Linda Namick is going out of the pits.
And Kenseth trying to get past Adam Petty, who Kenseth must have felt was going a little slower than the NASCAR mandated 45-mile-an-hour speed limit. They don't have speedometers. That big gauge to the left is the tach, and that's how they judge their speed on the tachometer. Here's Ralph.
Russ Strutt throws the jack up underneath the car. Phil Dry goes to work on the front. Steve Rosenberg on the rears. They're going to try to tighten this car up a little bit. They said it was a little loose at the end, but remember, they like this car set up for long runs. So even though he's getting fresh tires later than the rest, his car is better on older tires. So as this next run gets a little long, we should see Matt Kenseth coming back to the front again.
Mike McLaughlin, Dave Blaney, Ed Barrier on pit road. Mark Green, and now Jeff Purvis is in as well. Shane Hall's the leader. CBS Sports coverage of the Carquest Auto Parts 250 will continue after this message and a word from your local station. LaJoy coming in.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, hey Steve. Yes, I was talking to you on talkback. Let me try it again.
I've been talking on talkback and nobody responds. Oh.
The only, just one story we had, the car we have not seen is Bobby Hillen with all the McGuire stuff on it, but, you know, when the race thins out, I'm sure.
Yeah, and he's the one that got hit in the pits.
Yeah.
But we didn't have the pit accident,
Yeah.
right?
No. Not that I heard. Leader's in. Shane Hall.
In celebration of NASCAR's 50th anniversary, CBS Sports coverage of the Carquest Auto Parts 250 is sponsored by the 3,400 Carquest Auto Parts stores across North America. You'll find it at Carquest. Edge Pro Gel. Lose the foam. Save your skin. And by Mobil 1 Synthetic Motor Oil. Nothing outperforms Mobil 1.
Phil Parsons pits. He assumed the lead when Shane Hall came onto pit road. You see most of the drivers here were in these positions a lap ago, and pit stops shuffles the order. So with Parsons in, the new leader of this race is number 59, Jimmy Johnson, rookie from El Cajon, California, 23 years old, in the Tad Geschickter and Steve Plattenberger car.
Well, it's got to be a thrill for him to be running out front in the big NASCAR race.
There's a look at our new leader out the back of Mike McLaughlin. He is the ASA Rookie of the Year. Johnson. The Geschickter's had a lot of luck with rookie drivers. Jeff Fuller won Rookie of the Year and won a race for him in this car several seasons ago. Elliott Sadler also has not made a pit stop under green. The defending winner of this race is the second place car.
And there were a few cars that made pit stops during one of those cautions, so they might be able to go a few more laps. I'm not sure about Sadler if he did or not, but Johnson did.
Johnson pitted back at lap 15. You're watching out the back of Mike McLaughlin's car. He has made his pit stop, finds himself on the lead lap, but barely in 16th place. Bill Stevens.
Mike McLaughlin, the winner in Charlotte a couple of weeks ago, obviously happy with his race day setup. They haven't made a move toward the front, but in that last pit stop, 4 tires, gas, and no chassis changes. A few teams, that was the story. Dale Earnhardt Jr. took some tape off the nose. They think that might help to bring the temperature of the motor down.
I think that was our fast food wrapper down in the passenger footwell cam there of Mike McLaughlin. There's a look out the front off the roof cam of the Gould's Pump Chevy from Team 34. He's trying to stay on the lead lap ahead of that 59 car. Here's a lead change coming. Perhaps no. Sadler closing on race leader Johnson. Sadler pitted at lap 10 under caution. Johnson came in at lap 15. And this may be their moment in the sun, because those faster cars like Kenseth, Earnhardt, and Buckshot Jones are all on fresh tires, and they're going to gun these fellas down.
Yeah, and when they make their pit stop, they're going to be a lap down also. So.
Now, Shane Hall was leading the race when he pitted. He's come back on track in 8th place. Here's Ralph.
Mike, there's a little bit of question as to whether or not they got all the fuel into the pole sitter's car. Shane Hall, they will take the gas cans back and weigh them, fill them up, do the math, and find out if they did get all the fuel in. And that could affect how long they can run this next set.
Well, if it's a long green flag run, that could be a disadvantage. Boy, what a difference a year makes, Ned. Last year, this race was run in near 100-degree heat, and I think, did you have more caution laps than you did green?
We had a lot of caution laps here a year ago. It was run, as you say, in July, and the temperature was very high. The asphalt was relatively new, and as a result, it wouldn't stand the heat with these heavy cars on it, and there were a lot of crashes, and as a result of the track conditions. But they've come back in, repaved this racetrack now, and as you can see, it's standing up very well.
Last year, 81 laps of this race run under caution. Last month here, we had a great NASCAR Craftsman truck race with Rick Corelli holding off Ron Hornaday and Jay Sauter. So a very competitive racetrack, as these Busch Grand National drivers are proving today. Jimmy Johnson ASA Rookie of the Year and Busch Series Rookie. Another of these young guns. One of the 10 drivers in the field that is younger than old man Earnhardt. We're talking about Dale Jr. Adam Petty called him an old man. Earnhardt Jr. is 24.
Well, I guess when you're at that age and somebody's 5 or 6 years older than you are, I guess they are old. As time goes by, that changes. 5 or 6 years becomes pretty small.
Oldest driver in the field, Scott Hansen. He is a graying 43. Wasn't long ago, Winston Cup drivers were just barely hitting their stride at that age.
And Scott Hansen is running in 10th place. He's on the lead lap right now.
Having a good outing for Kenny Schrader and Kenny Wallace in his first Busch Series start. There's race leader Matt Kenseth. Lapping continues. Moves underneath Wayne Grubb.
Kenseth up to 3rd now after his pit stop.
And he is the first car in order of those that have already made their pit stop. Let's get an update on Scott Hansen from Ralph.
Mike, Ken Schrader owns the car. Kenny Wallace supplied the sponsor for Hansen here this weekend. So naturally, both drivers wanted to know how their driver was doing at Gateway. They sent him up to St. Louis with a cell phone. They rang it crazy for him on Thursday, making over 7 phone calls to him before practice even started. I asked Scott, what'd you do with the phone on Friday? He said, I shut it off.
He's doing just fine. It's a very convoluted ownership scheme of that car because it was entered by Jimmy Spencer and uses Jimmy's Busch Grand National number 12. Spencer Motor Ventures is listed as the entry, and that's why Scott is in the field. He also got caught up in the rain sequence yesterday. Wasn't fast enough to make the first 36 spots, and because it was Spencer's entry, the team was eligible for a provisional spot.
Jimmy Spencer's car number 12 has run a lot of races this year and is high enough in the car owner point standings where they were eligible for a provisional.
You're watching from Matt Kenseth, the 3rd place car. And you're seeing a few lap machines behind him. Not yet Dale Earnhardt Jr., but he'll be there
before long. There are 17 cars being shown on the lead lap, but when those front 2 cars, Johnson and Elliott Sadler, make pit stops, then that's a few, they can make pit stop now, maybe under caution. Let's see.
Elton Sawyer all by himself spins, and caution is out.
What a break for Elliott Sadler and Jimmy Johnson. Bad break for some of those who was talking about that were a lap down and waiting for the leaders to make a pit stop.
Now, Johnson was on pit road, Ned, and he may have been overlapped. We'll have to check as they come back out. No, he stays on the lead lap. And here's Sawyer. He's going to make it back around to the caution flag, and he will stay on the lead lap as well. Didn't appear, Ned, as if anybody touched Elton Sawyer. Let's have a better look here in replay.
Okay, there he is, the number 38 car coming up on the outside of Joe Bessie, coming into the turn, and they did make a little bit of contact there. I don't know if Sawyer came down a little bit or Bessie went up a little bit. Nevertheless, they made contact, and around he goes, spins into the wall. Not too hard. I don't think he did a lot of damage to the car, but he was already a lap down.
Now, Bessie was 2 laps down, not quite up to speed, but in watching the replay, you could see Bessie's car slide up a little bit in the corner, and he and Elton Sawyer make contact. Tough break for the Aiken-Sutton team. Elton Sawyer in high hopes of being the highest finishing Ford here today. 96 laps complete. We'll be right back.
It was a tough break for the Green brothers here. And,
oh, man. Kevin did?
Kevin did.
Yeah. Elton has, he may have brakes. They're going to the garage.
Car, how big, and you want us to the garage style?
Buckshot's in. That's kind of surprising. Yes, Steve. Okay.
know, Mark and Davey Green both being shown on the lead lap, but they were right in front of the leader.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
So
Yes, Kathy.
They were almost a lap down.
Okay. Very good. Well, it cost Scott Hansen, I guess. Oh, no, here he comes. He'll also... No, he'll...
Yeah, he could still be on the lead
Yeah,
lap.
he is. He is. Got it?
I think that was a break for him because he was going to have to pit too, I think.
Yeah.
Hansen.
Yeah.
I know, I'm just asking the guys in front of me who's on the
All right.
tail end to see who's going to be on the outsider. It's no big deal. I'll figure it
Guys,
out.
Elton Sawyer has climbed out. Coming up next, it's conference crunch time on NASDAQ College Football. In the Southeast Conference, the Auburn Tigers head into the swamp to clash with the Florida Gators. And in the Big East, Syracuse travels to Beantown, Boston College. That's coming up next here on CBS Sports. We're under caution at Gateway International Raceway, 2 laps to halfway. Elton Sawyer's brush with Joe Bessie has now sent Sawyer's car to the garage area, and he has climbed out of it while they attempt to make repairs.
And Bessie is on pit road making repairs to his car.
So Matt Kenseth is the leader. Dale Earnhardt Jr., Jeff Purvis, Dave Blaney, Shane Hall are the top 5. Andy Santerre, Glenn Allen, Todd Bodine, Tony Stewart, Mike McLaughlin are the top 10. There are 20 cars showing on the lead lap, including Ed Barrier, Elliott Sadler, Johnson, who was leading just before the caution, Jimmy Johnson, Buckshot Jones, Randy LaJoie, Phil Parsons, Kevin Grubb, Scott Hansen, and Green brothers David and Mark. Here's today's Aflac trivia question. What's the NASCAR Busch Series record for consecutive different pole winners in a season? Consecutive different pole winners. I think it's a trick question, Ned.
Yeah, I think it is too. I don't know. I think I know who it might be, the driver, but I'm not sure.
Consecutive different pole winners. We're going to have to go to the Merriam-Webster for this one, I think. You know what? While you ponder this, we will too. We'll be right back to Gateway after this. Well, if Greg Fielding doesn't know, nobody knows.
Yeah, I totally missed the point there.
Me.
Because what?
Okay. Then could you show me Adam Petty so I could pay off something that it took Greg a long time to write here? Actually, if we're still yellow, Kathy, can you show me 8, Bobby Hillen, and then pan back to 22 so we can get them the Cardinals mentioned? Yes. Okay. Okay. Right. Okay. The 8 Hillen, and then just slide back.
This one to go.
I'm not hearing that talk. Never mind. The 8 car. Okay, never mind. Yeah, they're more than a lap down, so never mind. It's okay. No, we're going to be racing. What? Yeah. Yep. Okay. Welcome back to St. Louis. Matt Kenseth leads Dale Earnhardt Jr. The 2-point leaders have come to the top of the field. What's the record for consecutive different pole winners in a season? It's this season. We've had 23 different pole winners, 17 races since we've had a repeat pole winner. That takes us back to mid-May.
Well, I sure missed the meaning of that question. I thought it meant the driver who had won the most consecutive poles. I was going to say Jeff Gordon a number of years ago, but I missed the question. No wonder I couldn't get the answer.
Oh, right answer, Ned. I'm not sure it was the right question. Matt Kenseth takes off, and he overlaps Mark Green, who was on the tail end of the lead lap, just in front of Kenseth when they dropped the green flag for the restart.
So now there are 18 cars on the lead lap.
Elton Sawyer's car is in the garage. Bill Stevens is with Elton.
And he is disappointed. Elton, what happened out there?
I'm not real sure. Trying to hold Matt out there from going a lap down. And, went off into 3 and we're going around the car. And I don't know if I didn't give him enough room or he didn't give me enough room, but it's like we got the worst end of it.
Think you can get back out there? Think you can get back out there?
Oh, we'll get back out, you know, just wasn't going to be what we were looking for.
Big disappointment. The only driver in the top 5 in points that hasn't won a race this year.
4th in points coming into this race. He had 62 on Randy LaJoie in 5th and will likely drop a spot at the end of the day. There's Shane Hall moving up the inside, jumps in behind the blue and yellow car of Casey Atwood. Hall, the pole sitter, after pit stops, trying to climb back to the front.
Atwood is running in 22nd position. He is a lap down.
Ned, he was one of those drivers who got caught out. Look up front for the lead. Here comes Earnhardt as they dive under Bobby Hillen's lapped car. And that of Mike Dillon. Boy, they got 3 wide there for a second.
Dillon had been in the pits for a couple of laps and came back out in front of the leaders. Now it's gone another lap down.
And let's go to the pits and route.
Right now, Matt Kenseth's car is a little bit tight, Mike, so they're going to make an air pressure adjustment probably on the right rear on the next stop. They'll probably go up with the air pressure, which will loosen the car up a little bit because he's a little tight right now.
That's Kenseth in front of Earnhardt Jr. by 0.2 of a second, which marks out at about 1 car length. The car right behind the 2 of them is Bobby Hillen. And a salute to these St. Louis fans. You see the big baseball on the hood of Hillen's car. It says Mac Attack. I wonder who that could be.
Yeah. One of the most popular athletes in all the world, Mark McGuire.
He and Gary Gaetti, Andy Bennis, Danny Schaefer, Hal Morris are 5 of the 6 owners, Major League Baseball players that own this car. Car in the wall, turn 2. Hard crash, and that's number 50, Joe Buford, the driver out of Nashville, Tennessee, who took down the track title there this year. Very aggressive, charging young driver. And he's going to put some fluid down as the caution flag waves.
Yes, he is. You can see there's damage to the left rear. Looks like the left front tire is flat. So it'll be a cleanup situation here as he puts more debris on the racetrack.
That team has had a tough baptism into NASCAR racing. Started the season with Jimmy Foster. He got injured. They've had several drivers in that car since, trying to gain a foothold here in the Busch Series. 4th caution of the day. Let's have a look at it from our unmanned camera.
As they come off at turn 2, you can see the car on the high side. It just breaks loose with him and back into the wall. I couldn't see another car getting involved with him, Mike, but it was in the second groove and back end just broke loose.
So we're just past halfway, Ned. 106 of 200 laps complete. Matt Kenseth the leader, Dale Earnhardt Jr., Jeff Purvis in 3rd, and I would doubt that any of the leaders would make pit stops under this caution. CBS Sports coverage of the Carquest Auto Parts 250 will continue after this message and a word from your local station.
A little loose then, so we'll just have to wait. I think when everything gets up to temperature, it'll probably run all right, you know. Probably just stick with the, I mean, if another caution comes out, probably just stick with 4 more tires and keep everything the same, right?
Okay. Well, looks like he got hit in corners 10, 2, and 4. Yes. Yep. Okay.
Are we going to see that replay again from the end car? Okay, good.
Tonight on CBS, what could you do if you got tomorrow's newspaper today? Kyle Chandler stars in early edition. Then Sammo Hung, the man Time magazine calls America's least likely but most refreshing network star, breaks out in martial law. And Chuck Norris is Walker, Texas Ranger, tonight here on CBS. Joe Buford has taken the Joe Washington Julius Erving number 50 to the garage area, where repairs continue. Now watch for Mike McLaughlin's car. Just ahead of Mike on the right is Buford.
And you see he's up in the second groove, and all of a sudden the back end just goes around on him. And I don't know if he got a little bit high on the track or if he had a tire going down or what happened, but it just got loose. And here's from Hermie Sadler's car as he looks out ahead.
And let's join Bill Stevens.
Well, Mike and Ned, the exact words from Joe Buford to crew chief Darrell Bryant after that incident was, the lead lap cars pushed me high. But he didn't mean physically. He just meant the position of the cars on the racetrack. Also, problem perhaps with car number 85, the former leader Shane Hall. He's telling his crew chief Steve Addington that the car feels like it's going to run out of gas. They may have a fuel delivery problem at this point.
Joe Buford has climbed out of car number 50, Ned.
Thank goodness for that. He hit the wall pretty hard, but he did drive it back around to the garage area.
And Curtis Markham has also taken Dennis Shoemaker's number 64 back into the garage area and apparently out for the day. We're under caution here in St. Louis. We'll be right back. Okay, that's okay. No.
Elton.
Thank you. All right. Are you hearing Ned's talk back, folks? No, I guess not.
No.
Okay. I guess we'll pass notes to Eileen. Can I have a water, please? Yes. Thank you.
There's some cars that made pit stops, Buckshot and Phil Parsons and several others, which was smart, those on the tail end.
Thank you.
Tony Stewart, they might be able to stretch it from here 90 laps, because didn't Shane Hall go back close to that?
Okay. Was it Florida Auburn and BC Syracuse? Oh, okay. Okay, got it. Got it. Guys, here are some folks that just stopped that, you know, like Buckshot, Scott Hansen, Phil Parsons. Did Elliott just stop? You know, they all may be able to go to the finish, and we might build a little drama with that. if they don't have to make another stop here.
Definitely those who did not stop will have to stop again.
Yep. 90 to go. NASDAQ College football is coming up after the checkered flag here on CBS Sports. You'll see Auburn versus number 5 Florida, or number 22 Syracuse against Boston College next. Mike Joy with Ned Jarrett here at St. Louis, where the souvenir stands are doing a thriving business during this lengthy caution flag period. We're getting close to going back to green. 89 laps to go. Ralph Shaheen on pit road.
Robbie Reiser is the crew chief for Matt Kenseth. Well, Robbie, you're probably going to make one more stop, aren't you? And when will you do it?
Well, we're going to have to make one more stop. Lego Chevrolet's running really good today. We just, you know, we're leading right now. I don't want to give it the track position, and I think there'll be another yellow yet. So we'll just come in when that is, put 4 tires on it, and see what we can do.
So if you don't get the next yellow, when will you come in? When are you going to be forced to come in?
Well, we can go to lap about 175, so I don't think it'll go that far.
To Bill Stevens.
I'm a Tony Uri Sr., the crew chief for Dale Jr. Just crunching some numbers. What's the fuel window look like now?
Well, the guys are stopping right now. They can make it, but I don't want to get back there in the back of that mess there. So there's a lot of them going to chance it, but we're not going to chance it. Anybody that stops now pretty much make it the rest of the way, but we're going to take our chances up front. We're going to stop, get 4 tires and a tank of fuel and see if we can win this race.
Not going to roll the dice, Mike.
What Tony Uri means with 18 cars on the lead lap, Ned, if you made a pit stop now before this green flag restart, there'd be a lot of traffic to come through to get back to the front.
A lot of traffic and you know, accidents, spins, bumps happen in this type of a situation. You have drivers trying to get back on the lead lap and racing each other for position, and all of those cars in front of you who are on the lead lap. So it is a treacherous situation to put yourself in, and they're battling for a championship. So that comes into play here now.
Here are the drivers who have just made pit stops that can go the distance and are on the lead lap in contention for the win. Elliott Sadler, the defending champion of the race. Tony Stewart, Buckshot Jones, Scott Hansen running his first ever Busch race, and Phil Parsons. All 5 of them can go the distance without another pit stop.
Or at least they figured they can. They came in and topped them all in the last couple of laps.
Leader Matt Kenseth pitted on lap 80. 32 laps ago. Dale Earnhardt Jr. pitted just 2 laps before Kenseth. Getting set for the restart. It'll be Kenseth out in front of Earnhardt, Purvis, Blaney, and Santerre. Then Shane Hall, Todd Bodine, Glenn Allen, Ed Ferrier, and surprising Jimmy Johnson. A little tap. Let's get going from Earnhardt as you watch for Matt Kenseth's car. We're back under green. Good, smooth, no problems restart. Earnhardt has to get by a lapped car here. Wayne Grubb.
That's one thing you want to do is try to clear that lap traffic as quickly as you can after the green falls, and both of those front cars were able to do that. Now, Jeff Purvis is sort of tied up in that traffic. He's the 4th car in line on the outside, so he has one more lap car to pass.
Watch that 63 to be coming hard. That's Casey Atwood. He is trying to get back on the lead lap. Purvis to the inside, makes a move in the number 4 car.
Now remember, in the first 60 or so laps, his car was the fastest one out here. I'm sure they made an adjustment during his pit stop. Certainly put 4 tires on it. That was a green flag pit stop he made.
Purvis in 3rd place now as they clear the lap traffic. Dale Shaw drove that number 4 here last year. The former Busch North champion led twice for 10 laps and finished a strong 3rd. Hello.
I'm here.
Yeah, I'm right here.
He's working on it. And here he goes. He's going to try to take the lead going into turn 3. Kenseth backs off and said, okay, if you want it that bad, go ahead. And this year, for the first time in this series, there are leader bonus points. So he'll get 5 bonus points. Earnhardt hasn't led today, but he's about to, so he gets those 5 bonus points.
Elton Sawyer returns from the garage area back in the race. And Earnhardt Jr. back to the front, gets high up there in turn 2, but As you see, that groove seems to be working for him.
Certainly worked for him that time. He was able to come off the corner, had good momentum coming off the turn, and kept the lead.
Jeff Purvis in third place for James Finch. Here's Ralph.
Johnny Allen is the crew chief for Jeff Purvis. Johnny, how's the car, and what's going to be your pit strategy as we wind this down?
We're a little too tight, you know. We didn't really want to get back there in all that mess right now. They're a little antsy back there behind us, and we really want to play conservative and get to within our window real safely because we're running pretty good up here, and we'll be in there. We already made it to our pit window, so I'm going to say next caution, we're coming.
So they're going to wait along with the 2 leaders. Now, of the cars that pitted, and remember there are 18 cars on the lead lap, 5 of them made pit stops just prior to going back under green as Purvis gives Kenseth a little tap there.
Kenseth in the black, number 17. Purvis in the multi-car colored number 4. They're orange and white. I guess I'm sure they got a different name for that, what I call orange,
but he's in third place. And Andy Santerre is right behind him.
Santerre taking a look there.
That's been a strong car all day.
Yes, it has. Santerre, he sat on the pole at Richmond about a month ago.
Jason Keller on pit road. You know, it wasn't long, Ned. This was pretty exclusively a southern sport, but in today's top 10 starters, 7 states represented. From Maine to Tennessee, Georgia, North Carolina, Wisconsin, Texas, Florida, all among the top 10 starters. 2 drivers from Maine, Santerre and Joe Bessie.
Santerre still working on Purvis for the 3rd position.
81 laps to go. Ned, will they challenge each other or will they run a while like this?
Well, I think as long as the car in front of you is running good and not slipping, but if you see he has a weakness somewhere, then certainly you'll try to pass him. But you don't take chances right now in trying to pass somebody. You don't bump them out of the way because you can mess up your own race car. So it just depends on how the car in front of you is running as to whether you want to even try to pass it.
These 4 cars have a breakaway, and leading that train is Dale Earnhardt Jr. Here's Bill.
Well, that car that Earnhardt Jr. is in is his favorite car, not so much because of performance, but because of what it represents. He told me that somebody very close to him cast a guardian angel on that car. He says whenever he drives it, it takes good care of him, and it certainly looks like that's the case today. Ralph Shaheen.
Check with crew chief George Debadard, who is the man who spins the wrenches for Andy Santerre. Said on the end of the last run, the car got a little bit tight. They'll be a little bit afraid of that at the end of this next run. They will come in at the next caution. That will be their final stop, and they'll take care of that problem on that final pit stop.
So it's Earnhardt, Kenseth, Purvis and Santerre, Shane Hall, Todd Bodine, Glenn Allen, Dave Blaney, Jimmy Johnson, and Randy LaJoie, Ed Berrier, Mike McLaughlin. None of those drivers pitted under this last caution. The first of the drivers in the line who did pit and who has moved up a few spots is Buckshot Jones. There he is in 13th place, just ahead of Elliott Sadler.
As you say, Mike, he has picked up a few positions since then. He's coming up on McLaughlin there now. That would be another position. He moves to the inside, and he has a little fresher tires and, of course, a full tank of fuel, and he's going to make that pass. It looks like he'll take over the 12th position. So that's when they talked about getting back in that mess back there. We're talking about heavy traffic, and we talked about the cars that they'd have to pass to get back to the front, and that's a good race car that he's passing there right now. Lyndon Amick right in front of him. Lyndon is a lap down in 22nd position.
And here's Mike McLaughlin right behind. McLaughlin pitted 3 laps earlier than Buckshot on lap 107, so he also did pit during that caution. So let's mark Buckshot and then McLaughlin and then Elliott Sadler of the drivers who pitted late under that yellow. I always wondered, Ned, now that car of Buckshot's is black on the nose, it's red and yellow on the tail. Is that getting the driver, when he comes up behind you, it's a black car. When he's in front of you, you're chasing a red and yellow car. Does it sometimes seem like it's 2 different cars?
You wonder, say, what happened here? I thought it was that was a different car, but no, they pretty well know which car they're dealing with, even when it comes up on them. Roy Buckshot Jones.
And Dale Earnhardt now with Matt Kenseth having closed right to his rear bumper. The lead battle is tightening up. And look, those three have some distance now on Andy Santerre.
They have put a little distance on Andy as he dropped back, and now Kenseth, his car really working down on the inside. He comes off the corner, gets a run. Does he have enough to get him going into turn 3? No.
Not this time. A long look under there. He's going anyway.
Wow, that's a pretty bold move. That car can stick up very easy and taking both of them out.
He was a half a car length behind Earnhardt at the entrance to the corner and just dove it in there. Trouble turn 2. One car has smacked the wall, coming off the corner and hit it hard. Lyndon Amick.
Yes, he has. He has damage to both sides of that race car. You see a lot of smoke where the fender is rubbing the tire. So this is the caution that those guys said they expected another one. And sure enough, here it is.
Let's see what happened to Amick's Pontiac up there in turn 2.
He's down on the inside of the Ed Barrier car, number 77. And the back end just breaks loose on it. Buckshot right behind him in the 00 makes a good move.
And let's show you from Mike McLaughlin's car.
He's looking up ahead and he sees the car starts to spin. Which way do I go? The car's going up, so I go low and get on by.
Ned, what might have happened? Might he have turned too sharp to keep from hitting Barrier, or lifted off the gas to keep from sliding up into him?
Well, I would say that he maybe turned a little bit sharp, plus the fact that when you get in a situation like that going into the corner, a little bit of air is taken off your spoiler. You don't have as much downforce on it as you normally would have if you were there by yourself.
Fifth caution of the day as Lyndon Amick takes his car back to the garage area. And the question is, will the drivers who did not pit at lap 107 come in now?
Well, if they do, they're going to get back back in that mess, as they said. But those cars who made pit stops before shouldn't have to come in now. They could probably afford to come in and top the fuel off and still beat those others out, because they will change tires. If the leaders come in, they will change tires.
18 cars on the lead lap. Tony Stewart, Phil Parsons, Elliott Sadler, and Scott Hansen now have not advanced in position. They are on the lead lap, but at the back of the pack. So there are still 11 cars that have not made their final pit stop that are in contention to win this race. 73 laps to go here at St. Louis.
So let's see. They're coming into turn 3 now as they get ready to enter the pits.
A lot of tires stacked up on the wall, Ned. I think we'll see most everybody in.
I think we will. I don't think they can afford to gamble on another caution. And you don't want to get yourself, here they're coming into the pits, you don't want to get yourself too far back in the field late in the race. You want to give yourself time to be able to get back to the front if you have a little trouble in the pits or something like that.
So here's Earnhardt Jr. leading Matt Kenseth and the rest of this field onto pit road for what should be their final stop of the day. Of the lead lap drivers, looks like Tony Stewart may pick up the lead here. Bill Stevens.
Dale Jr. into the pits. Just talked to Tony Uri. He says this is going to be leisurely. Nothing to worry about in terms of the handling on the car. They've left the suspension alone all day. Car has been a little bit loose, but not a problem. 4 tires, fuel, and they will obviously have a very efficient stop here. Let's go to Ralph.
Well, the key to this one was the right rear put on by Dean Rosenberg, and they beat out Dale Earnhardt Jr. with Matt Kenseth. The key was the right rear tire. They're going to go up a half a pound on that right rear to loosen the car up a little bit. They want to make sure it doesn't get too tight. Mike, this car of Matt Kenseth continues to get better as the runs go on. So they're really figuring as this race winds down, this their last stop, they should be in great shape.
I don't know, Ned. I think I just saw the coolest move of the race as we look at all the tape on Blaze Alexander's car. Buckshot Jones had stopped at lap 108, but he just came in and only took on 2 tires and may be good to go. We'll be right back. Okay, 40.
I think that was a smart move on Buckshot's part, very definitely.
Yes. Good. Yeah, I agree. Nope. Thank you, Steve. Okay. Okay. Yep. You know what? Okay. One thing we have not done is mention Daytona at all. I don't know if that matters. Could we get somebody at Buckshot's pit? Because Ned and I both think that could be a winning move right there.
I think it was a good move because he's back in the same position he would have been if he had not stopped.
But with better tires.
Yeah. But he's got Kansas right on his back bumper, so you know, a winning move. We don't know, but it.
Well, okay. I overspoke. Yes. Good. Thank you.
This CBS Sports Race Summary is sponsored by Budweiser, official beer of NASCAR. Hey, race fans, this Bud's for you.
70 laps to go. 8 different leaders. Tony Stewart is the newest. 11 lead changes. 5 cautions for 22 laps have dropped the average speed now to 103 miles per hour. Curtis Markham, Joe Buford, Lyndon Amick in the garage area. And let's check with Ralph Shaheen, with the crew chief that made a sharp move right there, Ralph.
Well, you know, Ray Evernham has made it a big story this season with changing just 2 tires in the late stages with Jeff Gordon. He's won a lot of races that way. Ricky Pearson, crew chief for Buckshot Jones, you like the no-tire stop, just fuel. Is that going to be good enough?
Well, I don't know. You know, we've been fighting a pushing problem all day, and we made a chassis adjustment there and elected not to put on tires because we only got probably 10 laps of green on these tires here. So, you know, he was running as good as the guys that was leading the race then. So, you know, we'll just kind of see what happens here.
It's a gamble, Mike, but it could be a good one.
Thanks, Ralph. Green flag.
Yeah, it certainly got him good track position, and that's what they were after. And Tony Stewart is the leader. He takes off in the Pontiac number 44. Buckshot right on his back bumper. Both of them cleared the lap traffic before they got to turn 1.
Open wheel ace and Pep Boys Indy Racing League star Tony Stewart, who will run Winston Cup full time next year, is being challenged for the lead. Here comes Buckshot Jones to the inside.
Did he get a run off turn 2 and just drove right down on the inside of Tony Stewart? Tony could do nothing about it.
So Jones to the front. Stewart to second. Matt Kenseth is third. Earnhardt Jr. is fourth. And Scott Hansen took a provisional to start this race. In his first ever Busch Series ride is 5th. You're riding with Hansen.
Bobby Hillin goes by on the outside, on the inside rather. Hansen on the outside as we look out his windshield down into turn 3.
Third place, Earnhardt underneath Matt Kenseth. He'll take that spot away. Hansen, ASA champ. He's won the big All-Pro race, the All-American 400 at Nashville. Absolute short track specialist and very deserving of this opportunity. Ralph?
Mike, everybody kind of expected Scott Hansen to get stronger as the race went on. The biggest reason was he had to get used to radial tires. In ASA competition, they run on the bias ply tire. And Ned, as you know, there's a big difference in the field between a radial and a bias ply. And with the rain delays, Scott didn't get as many laps as he wanted to in practice.
He's doing a great job. You're right, there is a big difference in the bias ply tires and the radial tires. That is a big adjustment that has to be made when drivers come from other series where they don't run the radial tires. One thing about a radial tire, they stick good, but if they ever break loose with you, then that thing takes off with you.
And it's like climbing out of a pair of sneakers and strapping on a set of rollerblades. It's a whole different feeling.
It sure is.
Good run for Hansen today. Jones up front, Tony Stewart hanging tough. But Earnhardt's right there, right on his bumper into turn 3.
He's moving in to challenge. Of course, the tire's a little bit older on Tony Stewart's car. And he gets a run on him coming off turn 4, gets a nose alongside, trying to take over second place. But that Pontiac of Stewart's is strong down the straightaway, but Earnhardt hangs in there. And he'll make the pass.
They both work up the racetrack just a little going into one. Dale Earnhardt Jr. moves up to second spot. He leads Matt Kenseth by 97 points coming into this race. So Tony Stewart now sits in third. Here's Bill.
Ned, you mentioned that Tony Stewart was quick down the straightaway. That's the good news. The bad news is that car's been tight all day. Brian Fraser, the crew chief, told me they're trying everything to try to get that car to behave. They were hoping against hope they would have enough race car to stay up front. As we can all see, he's being passed.
And I'm correct that Scott Hansen has not won the ASA championship. He's won so many of those races, I kind of thought he had.
Not over yet. And Kenseth took a look at Tony, but couldn't make the pass as we ride with him.
About 8,000 RPM there at the end of the straightaway.
See how Kenseth's car stays right down on the inside, and as Bill pointed out, Stewart's car just not handling quite that well in the turns. He's good, but not quite as good as a couple of others.
Right behind them, Martin Green and Bobby Hillen battle for 19th place, one lap down, but here comes Kenseth underneath.
Most of those drivers got caught up on green flag pit stops before they made green flag pit stops. Caution came out, and they were caught a lap down. Buckshot still out front in the 00. Here's Earnhardt in second.
0.6 of a second the difference. Here's third and fourth. No difference there. Stewart in 44. Kenseth in 17. That's third and fourth place. Here's fifth place Jeff Purvis in the number 4 car, working underneath Hillen to lap the machine. There's that battle for 19th going on, or rather Mark Green has it. Battling there with Todd Bodine, who is the 6th place car. Andy Santerre, 47, is 7th.
And Dave Blaney, there in the number 93, is in 8th place.
Series champ Randy LaJoie, number 74, is 10th.
Now that 72 car of Mike Dillon, he is 4 laps down in 34th position.
And a little further back, 99, Glenn Allen. And 12, Scott Hansen. Complete the top 10, or top 11 rather. Jimmy Johnson is 12th. Kevin Grubb, Shane Hall, Ed Berrier, Elliott Sadler, Bill Parsons, and Mike McLaughlin are the lead lap cars.
And here we see the 2 leaders, Mike. Of course, Buckshot Jones still out front, and Dale Earnhardt is in 2nd place, and Matt Kenseth did get by Tony Stewart for the 3rd position. As Earnhardt closes in now on Buckshot.
Well, that'll keep Kenseth and Earnhardt just 5 points apart. And Matt Kenseth is finding out what Mark Martin already knows. It's hard to gain any ground in the championship chase when the driver you're chasing for the title is either right in front or right behind of you.
Not much of a points difference there. As you said, just 5 points difference in each position up through 6 positions. Then it drops 4 points for 6 more positions, and then from there on back, from 13th on back, is just a 3-point drop per position.
Winning the championship requires consistent top finishes every week. One did not finish to put you out of the title hunt. Jeff Purvis has passed Tony Stewart for 4th place. Stewart now to 5th. Let's go to Ralph in Earnhardt's pit.
Mike, we've talked a lot today about how Matt Kenseth's car gets better as the races go on. Well, Tony Urie's driver, Dale Earnhardt Jr., gets better himself as the race goes on. Tony says he's a real rhythm driver, a lot different than his father, Dale Earnhardt Sr. Jr., as the race progresses, gets more comfortable, finds his rhythm, gets quicker.
Turn 3, hard in the wall is Kevin Grubb. You see Earnhardt waving off as the caution comes out, and right side contact, Grubb's car, and left side with the wall. This will bring out our 6th caution of the day at lap 142.
Kevin had a good run going here today, unfortunately, and involved in that too is Eric Jones in the car number 70.
Jones starting his first Busch Series race. Grubb at age 20 and Jones at age 21 among the Generation Next. Let's show you first from inside Mike McLaughlin's car what happened.
Hey, there's Mike. There's Phil Parsons right on his left, but the trouble starts up in front of him. You see a little bit of smoke Coming a couple cars get together, and there's the 43 car of Grubb going sideways.
And here's another look at the aftermath.
And here's the 70 car of Jones.
And let's show you real time how little time Mike McLaughlin had to react here. When you see that big puff of smoke, that means there's contact.
He slows it down and sees the car spinning to the outside. Tim Feeder were almost involved in it.
That's a wide lens, which doesn't show you how close he got to getting into the back of Phil Parsons.
Really?
So we're under caution at St. Louis for the 6th time today. CBS Sports coverage of the Carquest Auto Parts 250 continues after this. Yeah, Steve. Yep. Okay. Okay.
Might have. Yeah.
That's still current? Yes, Steve. Okay. No camera, Steve. We have no camera. Okay. Just wanted you to know that, you know. Good. Okay. 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 Oh yeah, no, he's coming. He's halfway in the grandstand now. If you're sick of the same old TV dramas, Sammo Hung has the cure. Time Magazine calls him America's least likely, most refreshing network star. Catch martial law tonight on CBS. We're in St. Louis. We're just east of the river in the Gateway Arch at Gateway International Raceway in Madison, Illinois, where caution is out for the 6th time today. And Kevin Grubb's car looks like Sammo Hung got after it after climbing out of bed there. Let's go down to the crew chief of Buckshot Jones with Ralph Shaheen.
That, of course, is Ricky Pearson. And, Ricky, the car looks a little bit quicker after that last stop, but can you hold off Little E?
I don't know. He's running awful strong. You know, he has all day. Seems like we're losing a little grip on them tires. We're going to certainly try. You know, he's doing a good job. We'll just have to wait and see once, you know, he runs a few more laps on his tires. Maybe they'll even out.
To Bill Stevens.
Tony Uri, crew chief for Dale Earnhardt Jr. Will you be telling him very much over these closing laps, or is this his race now?
No, it's his race. We can make it the rest of the way, and we probably won't stop anymore. Hopefully there won't be any more caution. We can go green the rest of the way. Car's real good right now. We're a little bit off in 1 and 2. 3 and 4, the car's great. But this racetrack, that's the characteristics of it. You get through one end, you can't get through the other. So I think we're getting through the corner you need to go through good. We're getting through it good. So hopefully we can win this race.
They're confident, Mike.
Well, he's worked with both Earnhardts, both Dale Jr. and his dad. You see Kevin Grubb walking away from the accident scene at turn 3. And it's always a tense moment, I think, for all of us when a car spins and catches the wall driver's side first. But Kevin was able to climb out the right side window, sit there for a minute, collect his thoughts, and then walk away.
Yeah, perhaps a little shaken up, but they will take him to the infield care center, take a look at him, and hopefully everything is okay. Good to see him walk away.
54 laps to go here in St. Louis. CBS Sports coverage of the Carquest Auto Parts 250 will continue after this message and a word from your local CBS station. Yeah. Hi, Steve. I'm hearing you. Okay. Right. What's the Chiron look like? Just so I have an idea. Okay. Yes. Should we mention it's being run tonight, or should we just kind of leave that alone? Okay. Okay.
In celebration of NASCAR's 50th anniversary, CBS Sports coverage of the Carquest Auto Parts 250 is sponsored by Pennzoil, specially formulated for today's stop-and-go driving. Stop, go, Pennzoil. Exide NASCAR Select, the official automotive battery of NASCAR. And by Wrangler, the Western Original.
53 laps to go here in St. Louis at the Carquest Auto Parts 250. Down in Daytona Beach, they're getting ready for Daytona at the speed of light, the Pepsi 400. And you'll see that Winston Cup race here on CBS Sports next Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Welcome back to Gateway International in St. Louis. Mike Joy with Ned Jarrett. And Ned, last year a lot of caution flags, a very difficult race, but today, like we said at the top of the show, a very competitive race. A lot of leaders, and the outcome of this one very much in doubt.
Yeah, I think the best might be yet to come. You got a lot of strong cars that have been running up front today and got shuffled around a little bit as a result of pit stops. But I think, between Buckshot Jones and Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Matt Kenseth and Jeff Purvis and Andy Santerre has been running good all day. So there are 5 cars that any one of them could win it, maybe even some of those behind them.
There are 17 cars on the lead lap, back through Scott Hansen and Elliott Sadler. Pit stops continue under this caution flag for the 43 car, Kevin Grubb, out of Mechanicsville, Virginia, that got up into the wall in turn 3. And he's taken the mandatory ride to the care center. Let's show you from Mike McLaughlin's car, again, what happened up in turn 3.
Of course, they were going down the back straightaway. Here is McLaughlin. You see Phil Parsons' car number 10 right on his left. And then he sees the smoke up in front of him, so he knows something is happening as they start into that corner. A couple of them apparently got together, and Grubb spins to the outside, hits the outside retaining wall pretty hard. And then the car of Eric Jones comes along and gets involved as well as we get the signal for one more lap to go, and we'll go back to racing. Speaking of Eric Jones, he said that's his first Busch race here today. Sort of a rough weekend. Dale Fishline had been the driver of that car number 7, and he's in the process of trying to buy that team, and he wants to work out a 3-year deal to hire Eric Jones. He thinks the young man has a lot of potential as a race driver in NASCAR, and so they totaled the car out here in practice on Thursday, and now this here today. So it's sort of a rough weekend for them.
Expensive weekend to be sure. Getting set for the restart. The cars on the lead lap lining up in the outside lane as we get set to go back to green. There will be 50 laps to go. Here at St. Louis, the USAC Silver Crown cars are here for their season finale as part of a Gateway doubleheader. 50,000 fans, nice crowd for Chris Pook and Jim McKaylee, and they're going to add 20,000 seats to this track next season.
They can already seat about 60,000, and it's almost full here today. Great crowd on hand. See a few rows down near the bottom of the grandstands that are not totally filled, but there are a lot of people back here at the concession stands right now. They better get back out here because the green flag is about to wave.
They better hurry. Bobby Hillen is in the number 8 car. He'll be trying to get back on the lead lap as we come back to green with 50 to go. He's lined up on the inside along with Mark Green, both 1 lap down. Buckshot Jones grabs a gear, gets going, and he has a good jump on Dale Earnhardt Jr. as they go to turn 1.
He clears the lap traffic, and that's what you want to do. You hold your breath. The cars that are on the lead lap, in case fans are watching who might not be familiar with NASCAR racing in this series as well as Winston Cup, the lead lap cars start on the outside. Those are the 1 more laps down, restart on the inside.
Jones with a clear advantage going into turn 3. Earnhardt has a mirror full of Matt Kenseth. Been the story all season.
They've had a lot of good races, the 2 of them, as evidenced by how close they are in the point standings. And you can see how far Buckshot got ahead as a result of clearing that lap car. As we see Purvis now trying to get down on the inside of the 8 car of Bobby Hillen.
It's funny though, Ned, as close as Earnhardt and Kenseth have run this year, and the 2 of them leading the points, in only 4 races have both drivers finished in the top 3. There to the inside, the 44 of Tony Stewart goes after the 4 of Jeff Purvis, chasing that 4th spot. Not going to get it this time. Let's join Bill Stevens in the garage.
Mike, there's a look of Kevin Grubb's car, and it took a wicked blast in the left front. You can see the tire get crunched, the fender. As far as he's concerned, his crew tells me that he got his bell rung. He was woozy getting out of the ambulance. He went into the care center. We hope to get an update in a little while, but at least to get out of the car under his own power, and that's always a good sign.
You see Buckshot Jones still holding the lead that he built up. He might have even built on it a little bit. After the first lap of the restart, he built about a 5-car length lead, and now he might even be a little more than that ahead of Earnhardt.
Let's see, Ned. It was 0.66 seconds last time around. It shrunk maybe a 10.
It did. 0.567 that time.
A 1/10 of a second around here doesn't mean much. Not when you're measuring that distance in just car length.
When you're setting up to qualify, it means a lot.
Yes. Oh, that's
yes.
10 spots.
Yes, but in the race, it doesn't mean quite as much. Of course, if you do it every lap, then it does mount up. And you can see Earnhardt is beginning to move in a little bit closer on him now.
Leader single file. And Earnhardt is closing it down on Buckshot Jones. He's taken another 10th out of that lead. 0.43 seconds this time by.
And while he's closing in, they're putting a little bit of distance on the 3rd place car of Matt Kenseth. Of course, it's been well documented here this afternoon that Kenseth's car seems to run better the longer they run on green flag laps.
Yeah, he's certainly hoping for a caution-free run the rest of the way. Randy LaJoie just passed Todd Bodine, and that will change 8th place. 17 cars on the lead lap.
Scott Hansen is the last of those.
And 46 laps, about a quarter distance left to run. Boy, Earnhardt's right there. Again, he chops a 1/10 of a second out of Buckshot Jones' lead, and now he can just about reach out and touch the leader.
And a similar battle going on for 3rd between Kenseth and the car number 4 of Jeff Purvis.
And for 5th, Tony Stewart and Andy Santerre.
So there are 3 2-car battles going on as Earnhardt tries to take the measure again. He's moved right on his back bumper now.
Now you don't need a watch.
No,
not at all.
Well, it said 0.196 when they came across the start-finish line that time.
So here is the number 4 of Jeff Purvis closing on Kenseth. And right behind them, Andy Santerre closing right up on the 44 of Tony Stewart. So a lot of good battles all the way back through the top half dozen here.
You see the 4 move in a little bit closer on Kenseth, especially in turns 3 and 4.
Looks like Noah's Ark, Ned. They're 2 by 2 for the first 6 spots. And then a little break where Dave Blaney has a little racing room on Randy LaJoie.
Blaney's in the 7th position.
Let's see which of these 3 battles get side by side first, because they're going to. There they are, all 6 of them.
I got a feeling it might be that battle up front, but we'll see.
There's the closest one right there, Stewart and Santerre. Santerre failed to qualify 2 weeks ago in Charlotte. His best finish this year, 10th at Richmond after starting on the pole. So he's on track for his best finish of the year.
Earnhardt tried the high line coming off of turn 4 that time on Buckshot. Didn't work for him, though. Any better than the low line. But you got to try those things. You got to take a look at where where he's running and where your car might. You can see if you can get a bite up there and get some traction off the turn. But you just try different things and see if he has a weakness and try to capitalize on it.
So the story's the same, 2x2 for the first 6 spots, and then Dave Blaney is starting to close in on the Tony Stewart-Santerre battle for 5th. Here's Earnhardt, slides the car off turn 4, trying to get the lead.
You wonder if the lap before, if it was a setup, tried to pass him on the high side, and this time he went to the low side. And Buckshot's car washes up the track just a little bit. Earnhardt gets the nose there, but he can't get the traction he needs off that short turn 2.
No, Buckshot came right back down with him to close the door. And it's still 3 pairs of cars for the first 6 spots, all nose to tail.
And they're all staying about the same distance apart. The 2nd and 3rd place battle about the same or 3rd and 4th as they were before. They just can't close on them.
For more on Buckshot Jones, the race leader, here's Ralph.
Well, Mike, remember the one thing they fought all day is what you're seeing right there, a big push in that 00 as he goes down into the corner and he turns that wheel. The car does not want to turn to the left. It just wants to go straight up the racetrack. Buckshot has to wait for those tires to catch, and then finally it will come through the corner. So apparently that push not completely out of the car yet.
Thanks, Ralph. Coming hard, the 47 of Andy Santerre. Santerre gets underneath Tony Stewart. He takes over 5th place. For more on Andy Santerre, here's Bill.
They're very happy with Andy Santerre's car. In fact, crew chief Nicholas Short told him, just play it cool, save the tires. With about 20 laps to go, Andy Santerre will probably make a run toward the front and hope there's room at the table when he gets there.
Santerre is 5th, now Stewart is 6th, and Dave Blaney a fast closing 7th. There they are from 5th on back. The lead is close. Earnhardt is right there, right all over Buckshot Jones and looking for the lead. We'll be right back. Got it.
Those 3rd and 4th place cars had stabilized at about 1.7 or something, but now they've lost a bit of ground.
Okay. The battle's, Kathy's going to be 6th from 44 on back. You're going to have 4 cars in it when we come back, I think. Nice show, folks. Good, you know, they're not passing a lot, but we're getting what we get. No, that's okay. We're getting what we get. I know. Well, you better sell more.
Yeah.
I know.
The fans don't want it.
No, not too much. Okay.
The leaders are continuing to pull away from Kinsey.
Okay. You're going to have, I think your best battle is going to be 44 and 93. Yeah. Yeah, just keep switching around on us. That's great. More the merrier. For complete auto racing coverage, get news and standings and chat with other NASCAR fans at cbs.sportsline.com after today's race. Buckshot Jones leads Dale Earnhardt Jr. The margin is just a car length. Matt Kenseth, Jeff Purvis, Andy Santerre, and Tony Stewart has his hands full of Dave Blaney right now.
Actually, Buckshot has pulled away a few car lengths here in the last couple of laps. Mike, when we went to commercial, Earnhardt was right on his back bumper, but couldn't do anything with him. And we mentioned a moment ago that the 3rd and 4th place battle was staying stable. With the front runners, no more. They were about 1.7 seconds behind. Now they're about 3 seconds behind. So the front two of Buckshot Jones and Dale Earnhardt Jr. are pulling away from Matt Kenseth in third.
Randy LaJoie moving up. Here's Tim Fedewa battling Bobby Hillen. That's the battle for 18th position. 1 lap down, and here's Randy LaJoie on the outside of Todd Bodine for 8th. Makes the pass.
Two veterans that have done a lot of racing in this series against each other.
And both cut their teeth in the New England Modifieds. Up front, Dale Earnhardt Jr. looking for the win and 5 more bonus points, or 5 more points, that is. If he can get past Buckshot Jones, Matt Kenseth, whose car was set up well for long runs, seems mired in third and has now fallen. This car, number 17, is 3.5 seconds behind the leader.
Yeah, he's losing more than 1/10 of a second a lap.
But he's still hanging on to third spot. You see all that empty track in front of him.
Yeah, he has pulled away from Purvis a little bit. Purvis, about 5 laps ago, was right on his bumper, but now he has a little bit of a cushion. There's Kenseth in third place. And we'll see Purvis there. You see the distance behind. And here's that battle again between Todd Bodine and Randy LaJoie. LaJoie said, I just passed you a little bit ago. What's going on here?
Yeah, these two guys, they just love to turn the wheel. And I'll bet they're both grinning.
Probably so. Yep. Yeah, they're having a good time. They wish it were for the lead, but instead it's for the 8th and 9th position.
Shane Hall, the pole sitter's 10th. Glenn Allen, 11th. Ed Berrier, Mike McLaughlin, Jimmy Johnson, Phil Parsons, Elliott Sadler, and Scott Hansen are the cars on the lead lap. Up front, lead battle, and it's down to 2 car lengths again.
He's moved back up. You wonder if Earnhardt might have just backed off a little bit, and cooled his tires, and sized him up and say, okay, let me make another run at him.
Here's Earnhardt, and there's the gap. It's just 2 car lengths, or about 3/10 of a second on the stopwatch. Now 3.5 seconds behind them before we get to number 17, Matt Kenseth and Robbie Reiser's Chevrolet. Then in 4th place, there's Jeff Purvis. He is only 0.6 of a second behind Kenseth. From here, it's about 1.2 seconds back to Andy Santerre. And Andy's got a little breathing room on what I thought would be a battle coming back between the 2 open wheel stars, Tony Stewart and Dave Blaney.
And that battle is shaping up. Tony Stewart in the number 44, Blaney in the number 93, and Blaney has closed in on Stewart.
And they're going to stay just about 2 car lengths apart. And if Blaney looks in his mirror, about another 12 car lengths behind them, he's going to find Randy LaJoie and Todd Bodine have broken off their battle, and they're trying to catch those 2. There's LaJoie in the blue 74 and Bodine in the number 30.
Back up front, still Buckshot hanging on to about a 4 car length lead.
And that's smoke from his car.
Yes. A lot of smoke from Buckshot's car, and I don't think that's a tire rub or anything, Mike. That's
way up front,
gearing or motor. Earnhardt backs off. He said, I don't want to get involved if there's oil or grease or something coming out of that car.
He's going to have to be careful, Ned, and he doesn't spin in his own liquid there. And Earnhardt has now got a windshield full of either oil or water or both.
Yeah, he's just, he doesn't want to go up there. He's very smart to not go up there. There's Ricky Pearson, the crew chief on Buckshot's car.
Tell you what, it's not going to last another 27 laps, whatever it is.
No, it won't.
Not sure if it's a leak at the engine or a line or overflow, but you see it pouring out of that left front wheel well.
Yeah, and he's still running at a pretty good speed.
Not for long.
They'll get to the bottom because he's getting the black flag now.
And Ralph's in his pit. Ralph?
Well, we're here with Ricky Pearson, who jumps down. Ricky, what's he saying? Any idea what the problem is?
I don't know. It looks like a left front wheel bearing to me. I'm not sure.
All right. Let's check. He says the oil pressure seems to be okay, Mike. We'll see when they come in, but the NASCAR officials making them come in.
I never smelled nothing like it.
Well, if it is the front wheel bearing, then he would not be putting down any sizable amount of oil or grease.
The other thing, Ned, you heard the driver say, he says, I don't know, I've never smelled anything like it.
Yeah.
So.
No, it's the brake, the right, the left front.
We'll see what's wrong with Buckshot Jones as Dale Earnhardt Jr. takes the lead here in St. Louis. We're going out of this to the studio. Yep. Look at all the oil.
Mm-hmm.
Power steering fluid, if not oil. That might have smelled different.
Yeah.
There sure was a lot of it for being
sure
power
was.
steering fluid.
Yeah,
They don't carry
yeah.
that much of that.
I don't know. Could be brake, but you got stopped okay there when you came into pits, didn't you? So brake line wouldn't be broken.
No, and it sure wouldn't make all of that mess. That's a nice shot, Kathy. We can speak to that before we go to Ralph.
Put the tire back on.
Yep.
They got all in it.
Oh. Yep. Can we replay a little bit of that hood up to show the stuff all over it? When Ralph gives his report, can we show that, replay that hood up so you can see all the oil and stuff all over the hood? Tim, it's getting down to crunch time. 20 laps to go here in St. Louis. Buckshot Jones has gone back on the track. Still a bit of smoke from his 00 car. Here's the leader, Dale Earnhardt Jr., and there's a look at Jones. Ralph Shaheen's in his pit.
Mike, when they came down, they lifted the hood. There was a tremendous amount of oil up underneath the hood of the car. Apparently what happened was an aluminum oil fitting, as you see on the oil on the underside of the hood, an aluminum oil fitting on an oil line got hot, expanded, and backed off. That opened up the line. The oil came out. They fixed that. He is back out, Bill Stevens.
When Buckshot had that problem, they immediately told Dale Jr. from his pit to back off. They were concerned about vision. They knew something was leaking out. He did it, and he preserved his vision. He says he can see fine. It won't be a problem.
There was a lot of smoke because a lot of that leaking oil, instead of flowing back onto Earnhardt's car, was going onto those hot exhaust headers and burning off. So Earnhardt's vision is apparently not too blurred. Buckshot Jones led for 43 laps today.
But that was a very smart move on Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s part to back off and not get up there and get his vision, the windshield all covered up so that he couldn't see that well. When that happened, you know, we had talked about that they had a 3-second lead over Matt Kenseth, who was running in third place. Well, that got down to a 1.5 seconds when Earnhardt was slowing down. But now Earnhardt has built it back up to a 2.46 second lead over Kenseth.
Let's show you what that looks like. Here's Earnhardt, left side of your screen, number 3. There's Matt Kenseth, just now coming into view, the second place car, number 17. He has 1.7 seconds. On the 4 of Jeff Purvis, he sits third. That car, Blaze Alexander. There's Purvis, the third place car. The James Finch Chevrolet. Joe Bessie is laps down. Next in line is the 47 of Andy Santerre, the fourth place machine. Joe Bessie 7 laps back, and here's Santerre going past his fellow lobsterman from Maine. Santerre's telling me yesterday they race lobster boats in Maine. Really? 40-footers. Dave McMaster, who builds those motors, says one of them is powered by an 1,100 horsepower Cummins diesel. I guess if you put an engine on it, they'll race anything.
I guess so. As long as they've been making motorized vehicles, there's been racing. There's Santerre, who is running in the 4th position. He's having a great run here today.
If he stays there, it'll be his best finish of the season. He is leading the rookie points for 1998.
And there's the man that's leading the point standings and leading this race.
Ned, when he cut his teeth at Caraway and Hickory and some of the shorter tracks in a late model, did you get to see him run much?
Not a great deal. Would get to see him occasionally when he would come to Hickory, North Carolina and race. But would read about it and hear about him. He was good. I don't think he had the best car out there a lot of times. Dale Earnhardt made his children. You mentioned earlier in the broadcast that 3 of them, Kelly, the daughter, had raced some on the short tracks around the Carolinas there. But he said, okay, here's some cars. You go out there and see what you can do. He didn't just hand them everything on a silver platter and let them go ahead. He made them earn their way up in the sport, and I think that's good.
He just passed his brother, Kerry. Older brother Kerry has spent some time in and out of the garage in his 39th today. 14 laps to go.
And 6 wins already.
There's a lot of racing fathers have done that with their sons. Said, you're going to work on these cars and learn what they're all about before you drive them. Did you do that with Dale and Glenn?
Yes, absolutely did. And it's the best way to do it, because they need to learn about those race cars, what makes them tick, what they need to tell the crew chiefs when they come in when there's something wrong. Look at all that paper flying around the track out there. Of course, that wind is still blowing. In fact, it looks like it's picked up.
Yeah, it's about over 30 miles an hour now. Yeah, let's not forget the Jarretts are a great racing family. Ned, 2-time NASCAR champion. Dale chasing a championship. Glenn had some success in late model sportsman of Busch Series racing. And now Jason. So another 3 generations of racing stars.
Well, it's nice to have the family involved. The sport of auto racing has been good to the Jarrett family, as it has been to the Earnhardts and the Pettys and Allisons and so many names in the sport. It's been a big family sport for many, many people.
So Dale Earnhardt Jr. now has a 2.7-second lead on Matt Kenseth with 12 laps to go. Top of the day, we told you about Adam Petty, who's also making his first Busch Series start. He is 27, 2 laps down.
And he said his dad told him when he came here, said, I want you to bring the car back. Go up there and get you some experience. You can't get experience if you're sitting in the garage area with the thing banged up. And so he's done a good job of that today, Kyle, if you're watching. And he's kept it out of trouble and has gotten a lot of experience here today, which is very valuable to him.
On board with Matt Kenseth and Robbie Reiser's car. A lot of RPM drop in the corners here, about 8,000 on the straightaways, and you see it drop all the way to 5,000 in the middle of that 3rd and 4th corner.
Yes, it does drop down quite a bit. That was turns 1 and 2 that they were going through right there, which is the turn that you would lose the most RPMs because it's a shorter turn.
Yeah, let's show you the difference, because turn 3 and 4 is a much wider radius. The RPM only drops to 5,400 at the north end of the speedway.
Quite a difference, which gives them a lot more speed coming off of that turn, but they're on a headwind here today going down the front straightaway into turn 1.
About 8,100. That autometer tack down there in turn 1.
That's a lot of RPMs for an engine with the 390 CFM carburetor, 9.5 to 1 compression.
By contrast, the Winston Cup cars run, 12 to 1 compression and a carburetor that's twice the size.
Yes, they run most of them an 800 or 850 CFM carburetor, and that difference in the compression makes a lot of difference in the horsepower, certainly.
10 laps to go. Here is your race leader, Dale Earnhardt Jr. Matt Kenseth now 2.7 seconds back.
Well, he lost a 1/10 of a second on that last lap, and I expect that was a plan. He's just taking it easy now, not wanting to get that car in a slide or just be sure that he has it totally under control.
Well, he needs the 170 points that go with second place. Earnhardt's going to pile up 175 for first today. Jeff Purvis is 6 seconds back. Andy Santerre in 4th, 7 seconds behind the leader. And Santerre is facing a challenge from Tony Stewart. Then Dave Blaney, Randy LaJoie, Todd Bodine, Shane Hall, and Glenn Allen are your top 10. Jason Keller going to go a 14th lap down here. He's been in and out of the garage.
Yeah, he was involved in an accident earlier in the day. Jason Keller finished 2nd a year ago here at this racetrack.
And let's look at this battle for 4th place. Andy Santerre was just a couple of tenths ahead of Tony Stewart, but now Stewart has got to fend off Dave Blaney.
Good race there from 4th through 6th position. There you see all 3 of them on the screen.
This will be the action as we come down to the final 7 laps here in St. Louis. Stewart will run all the Winston Cup races next year. He'll run only one Indy Racing League event, the Indy 500. He said he's had feelers out from all the top teams, doesn't know who he'll race for at Indy next year, but he'll be there.
And we see the 00 car, Buckshot Jones. He lost 4 laps when he had to come into the pit, so he is back in the 31st position. Tough break for Buckshot.
Yep, oil line or oil line fitting coming loose. Buckshot Jones tightened it back up, sent him back out. Costly. Perhaps cost him the win today.
Earnhardt Jr. has lengthened that lead a little bit on the last few laps. I'm sure that Matt Kenseth, with a good lead over the third place car of Purvis, has said, hey, I can't catch him. No point in me taking any chances, so I'll just ride her out from here.
And he's 24 years old. When I first saw him race, he was about 20. You could see some raw talent there, but you really had to wonder if it would ever mature. And in just the last year and a half, I think largely due to Tony Urie's influence, he has solidified into a very smart, very heads-up, aggressive when necessary driver, but really driving within himself and the car's capabilities. And the proof of that is that he is perhaps headed to be the series champion this year.
I agree with you. I think the influence of Tony Urie has been a large part of where he is today in this sport, and he certainly gives him a lot of credit, and justly so. But he has a great race car, a good race team. This is one of the oldest Busch teams in the series, because Dale Earnhardt drove for many, many years in the Busch series before he retired from this type of competition a number of years ago.
5 laps to go. Matt Kenseth has to make up 3.5 seconds now. The interval has lengthened.
It has.
Over the last 10 laps or so. So Kenseth is still 4 seconds ahead of Jeff Purvis for third, but he's trying to hold on to second place money, second place points. We want to catch him at the next race. Kenseth driving for Robbie Reiser, also out of Wisconsin, who was a Busch Series driver for a season and then reverted to the car owner role. And he has found a sharp young driver in Matt Kenseth. But this year, they don't get any sharper than this fella right here in his, I say his dad's trademark number 3. That backslant number 3 belongs to Richard Childress, who owns Dale Earnhardt's Winston Cup team. But you see all those 3s on the hats and pickup trucks and T-shirts, and those are folks pulling for Earnhardt, whether it's Dale or Dale Jr.
Yes, you see a lot of those T-shirts now among fans that has Junior out on the side, and that's not a black car. That's a dark blue car that we're looking at here. Of course, Dale Sr.'s car is black on the NASCAR Winston Cup circuit.
I'll have to ask you a question that Dale Earnhardt's going to hear pretty soon, and that is, was it tough to get used to being called Dale Jarrett's dad instead of Ned Jarrett Racing Star?
Well, I tell him that he's going to make me famous one of these days, and maybe Dale Jr. will make Dale Earnhardt Sr. famous. He's already one of the most famous athletes in the world, Dale Sr. is, but I'm sure he's very proud of this young man and where he has come in, as you said, a very short period of time.
And he should be. Here is Dale Earnhardt Jr. to take the white flag last lap here at Gateway International Raceway outside St. Louis. Matt Kenseth is now 3.3 seconds back. Jeff Purvis has fallen to 8.6, and he may fall into the clutches of Andy Santerre in this final circuit. Tony Stewart holds off Dave Blaney by a narrow margin as Earnhardt rolls it off into turn 3.
And if he wins this race, he'll have a 102-point lead, and it looks like he will.
37th career Busch Series start, 7th victory for Dale Earnhardt Jr. Matt Kenseth comes across the line in second. Jeff Purvis for third. Fourth, Andy Santerre, and by just 1 car length, Tony Stewart holds off Dave Blaney for the final spot in the top 5.
Blaney will finish 6th. LaJoie will finish 7th. Shane Hall will finish 8th. Todd Bodine dropped back to 9th. And Glenn Allen in 10th position.
Matt Kenseth dropped the net, gave a wave out the window to Dale Jr. Today's your day. We'll get you next week.
They're good friends. They have become good friends. Of course, they grew up in different parts of the country and racing in different series, but now that they're racing here professionally, they've become good friends.
Funny, Kenseth's car is sponsored by an internet company, and I've seen Dale Jr. spending a little time on the internet as well when his schedule permits. Everybody on their feet as Dale Earnhardt Jr. heads for Victory Lane here in St. Louis. We'll be right back to Gateway International Raceway after this. Yep. Okay. Okay. Good.
How many? Okay.
Welcome back live to the Carquest Auto Parts 250 just outside St. Louis. Coming up next, college football, NASDAQ college football on CBS Sports. You'll see Auburn versus Florida or Syracuse at Boston College. Now the Pepsi 400 is being run tonight in Daytona Beach, and you'll see a special encore presentation next Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time here on CBS Sports. Now let's go down to Victory Lane. Here's Ralph Shaheen.
All right, climbing out of the car for the 7th time in Victory Lane in 1998, Dale Earnhardt Jr., and he douses the crew in Victory Lane here. He's got them all soaked. He's going to go for one more bottle of Gatorade on the crew before he'll come down here and talk to us. He got Tony Uri pretty good there. Tony's been a big part of your help in winning this year, hasn't he?
Yeah, man. I mean, that man right there is the best. He keeps this team together. He demands respect, and he really making us all grow up pretty fast and be, you know, he's making men out of all of us. He's just doing a great job. Tony Jr. and all the other guys, man, they're all making good calls and building good shots and building good race cars. We got to tear that motor down. So it's going to take us a while to get home, so maybe old Dad can talk him into holding that race off for us because we won't get home and watch it.
Well, your hood and window have a lot of soda on it right now, but did it have any oil from Buckshot Jones?
He was putting down just a little bit, but that brake fluid doesn't last long. Another lap or two, we done wore it back off. First lap or something hit the windshield, knocked the post out the windshield, and it's carrying on. I didn't know if it's going to stay in all day, so just kind of keeping an eye on that, and it's running real hot there early on, so we had to take some tape off of it. And I thought Matt had the better car of the both of us, but we made an adjustment on the last stop. We talked about it, and it really helped the car. And I want to thank AC Delco, of course, and all those sponsors, Coca-Cola and Burger King and everybody. You know, we're pretty happy. It's been a great year.
Well, you're getting down near the end of the season. You got Matt Kenseth chasing you. You hold ground here today. When do you start watching points, or you keep racing for victory?
We're watching points now, man. I swear, this is wearing me out. I can't sleep at night. It's tough. So we got to run wide open to the very end. That's the only way the fans want it anyways.
Well, let's check in with Bill Stevens.
Second place finisher, Matt Kenseth. You were all over Dale Jr. today. Not quite enough.
Well, we were having a real good time out there. It's just, it was backwards at the end, you know. That's the best we could get. I mean, really, Laco Chevy was good. We were real balanced all day. That was the best we were. We're real good on long runs. It's just he had a faster race car than us, and plan to do something about that when we come back next year, but I couldn't ask for anything better. We had good pit stops. There was no more adjustments we could make to make it any faster. I was just as fast as this car was going to go today, and he was better. We had a good time. You know, we definitely would have liked to win, but that's the best we ever run at a flat track all year long, and Robbie and the guys worked really hard for it and tested a lot, and it paid off.
And you had a good time because you and Dale are pretty good friends.
Yeah, we had a good time. You know, he passed me a couple times. I passed him a couple times. I just wish the last pass I would have passed him. I would have had a little better time.
Let's get with Jeff Purvis right here, third-place finisher. Hey, last few races, the old guy here. You've been a terror.
Not quite good enough, though. We need to step up the pace a little bit. You know, I hated that I, had to sit out so many races because of Lance, our great sponsor, and I hate it for, the Phoenix Racing Team. But, we've got some good race cars, and right through the middle of the race there, we had a little bit of radio problems, and I was having trouble communicating with the team, and it just it set us back a little bit. I wasn't as good through 1 and 2 as I was at the very first of the race, and we just need to work on a few things. We'll be there.
String of top 5 finishes in the last 4 races. This guy, somebody to watch. Mike?
Well, he's 39 years old. He's not yet old, but when you're racing against 20 and 22-year-olds, I guess it's a way to look back. Dale Earnhardt Jr. is the winner here in St. Louis. We'll be back with more coverage from Gateway International Raceway on CBS Sports after this. I think what I'll do is I'll... Panic close. Okay. Yep, understand. Yep. Yep. Got it. Yep. I think what I'll do is, how about if I just run through the top 5, and then maybe let the rest of the rest play and make whatever comments as we go along. That'll give us our final thoughts as that runs. Okay.
In celebration of NASCAR's 50th anniversary, CBS Sports coverage of the Carquest Auto Parts 250 is sponsored by the 3,400 Carquest Auto Parts stores across North America. You'll find it at Carquest. Fram filters. Pay a little more now or pay a lot later. And by Old Milwaukee.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. led twice for 39 laps, 12 lead changes among 9 drivers. Earnhardt, Kenseth, Purvis, and a couple of young guys with a strong future. Leading rookie Andy Santerre, his best run, and Tony Stewart, the IndyCar star. Sprint car ace Dave Blaney completes the top half dozen today. Here's a look at the rest of the order of finish. And boy, Ned,